But yeah, it's gonna be a great show. So let me get him queued up real quick. Bring him on. Whenever you're ready, Aaron, you let me know. My girlfriend just walked in the door 2 minutes ago, so I got super distracted. But
Yeah.
some of the things we're gonna talk about tonight is we're gonna talk about sacred geometry and how it relates to music. That's one thing that Jeff Young's really passionate about. It's a really good topic that it's widespreading because it reaches into gematria and all types just geometry in general, symbolism, Pythagoras. I think it's just a lot of cool topics will come up tonight in the show. So make sure you stick around. We'll be going till 12 p.m. Eastern time. You good, Aaron?
Yeah, yeah,
Cool. All right.
yeah. Yeah, I'm interested to hear more about the sacred gematria stuff too. I've been into I've been getting into gematria a little more than I guess I have been. Jeff's the one that introduced me to gematria, showed me some basics and stuff, and put me on some YouTube channels and stuff. So uh, you know, it only seemed natural, as I don't know. Hopefully, I'm sure Jeff Young's gonna shed some light on the sacred videos, but not terribly
Yeah,
familiar.
he'll definitely enlighten us. How the hell are you, Jeff? Are you with us? I think you should be coming on. There he is. How's it going, Jeff?
Bloody well right, my friends.
Good deal.
Can you hear me
Hey,
okay?
Hear you great.
yeah,
There we go.
yeah, appreciate you coming on, Jeff. Really glad to
My
have you.
pleasure.
Yeah, we're still working out some kinks,
Yeah, go for what
tech
you know,
wise.
guys. Yeah, go for what you know. Once it sounds cool, we'll go. People are still tuning in, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think we hear you great. So I guess to start off, if you want to tell us a little bit about your awakening and what really got you going, and just a little bit of your backstory for people to hear.
Well, to make a long story short, because I'm sure when folks tune into my show out of the blue and hear us discussing on Music Without Boundaries some of the topics that we cover, I'm sure one of the first thoughts that crosses their mind is, who the hell is this cat, this long-haired rocker dude, and what the hell does he think he knows? And why does he think he knows anything about what's going on and how the world works?
Right.
I get that. So, I get that. So let's start at the beginning.
Absolutely.
And we got to start with my father because I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, home of the Ohio Players. And my father was a pretty bright cat. He worked at a few different companies before he branched out on his own. He had 16 patents, worked for Mead, Paper Corporation, NCR. But it was a little later in his career when he was actually forced to buy out his company or lose his job. His boss called him in one day and said, Jim, you got two choices. You can either take over the company and all the debt or lose your job. So my dad, he went for it. And it just so happens that the industry that he was about to carve his niche in was the major airport, government, hospital, and various different type of industrial corporations controlled access and security sector. And what controlled access and security is, let's imagine an airport. Say an airport like the airport involved in 9/11, or Miami Airport or Fort Lauderdale, Albuquerque International, which were some of our customers. When you're dealing with the Miami Airport, you're dealing with the Dade County Mafia.
Hmm.
So what we would do is when an airport or a hospital like Cleveland Clinic needed a security system, and let's cover some of the things that would be involved in a total access security system, which would entail the basic stuff that we all see. Even if you've ever been into a casino in Las Vegas, everyone's seen the cameras. Big Brother watching. Of course, we have fire alarms to sense if there's any trouble on that front. We have door readers, card readers that let certain government officials into certain classified areas or vaults, let pilots into the tarmacs. In hospitals, of course, the drug room needs a card reader. And surprisingly, among the biggest theft in hospitals are the scrubs that the employees wear. So we have to put a card reader on the door to monitor who's taking and stealing scrubs, which I always thought was kind of humorous. So you get the idea. Our company employed a team of expert software programmers that would write the code and create the graphic user interface that a security guard or a team of security guards would sit and monitor. We've all seen in movies and TV the typical security room, what that would look like. Somehow all these devices, the cameras, the fire alarms, the card readers, they all have to be synchronized and fed into that security room to be monitored. And that's what systems integrators do. We write the software, we bid the jobs, we tell the customers exactly how much cable they need to go from this tarmac to that tarmac, from this office space to that office space. And as you know, with airports and hospitals, they're always expanding, buying up property and building more facilities or satellite hubs. So it's a huge undertaking, and for a mom and pop operation and a company run by my father and my mother, who was the accountant, we were competing with the big boys.
And this is kind of in the
pretty big jobs. Again, some of the customers that we served included Miami Airport, Fort Lauderdale Airport, Albuquerque, Procter and Gamble. All your Procter and Gamble products are made in Cincinnati, Ohio. My dad landed that job. Cleveland Clinic, Shell Oil, U.S. Steel, even Smucker's Jams and Jellies out of Canton, Ohio. So that gives you some idea on the type of facilities that we would secure. And in these situations, you're getting into bidding wars with large companies like Honeywell, Diebold, Kronos in the time and attendance. Yep. Kronos and the time and attendance. We've talked about Kronos and what that means in gematria many times. So that's the essence of the business.
Yeah, top of the line technology.
I guess he had some guts. Yeah. I started to cut you off there. He had some guts to step in and be like, I'll do it, because I've even simply heard people in marriages kind of the same thing, sinking ship. One person takes the debt, the other one just wants out. So yeah. Quite a guy, your dad sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, he was taking a chance, and during my younger years, it was pretty tough for the family because they were investing in everything they had, just like any startup corporation. But my dad was an entrepreneur, and he was landing these big accounts out of seemingly by miracle, like Procter and Gamble, Cleveland Clinic, etc. So this is the topic and the subjects that are in my house. Okay. So I'm growing up as a young boy. Now I'm 14, 15. I remember I began working as janitor at the company in 6th grade. All right. So you're pretty young then, and you're not really paying attention to what your parents are into, but yet you hear it, over the dinner table, you're hearing it down the hall while you're trying to concentrate on your TV shows or whatever. You're hearing your parents talk about it, argue about it, etc. So I grew up with these topics around me, whether I wanted to or not. And every year till I moved out to LA, from 6th grade through 12th, I was cleaning the folks, waste baskets, mopping the floors, cleaning the bathrooms every weekend, keeping the place spick and span. Of course, you see stuff on desk, on chalkboards, and you just start to pick up stuff, just like kids do by, like a sponge.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Lives in a foreign language or with parents that speak multiple language. It's very easy for him to assimilate these languages because your brain is very alive at this young age. So this was the type of topics in the house. And, as a young kid, I was more interested in guitar playing, but, you know, you're learning and you never know when this stuff's going to come in handy, right? So flash forward, I knew that if I wanted to go into music, I wasn't going to be doing that in Dayton, Ohio. So I facilitated a plan to get myself out to Hollywood to go to Musicians Institute, the Guitar Institute of Technology, which I moved out to Los Angeles, that's pretty scary in and of itself because I didn't know anyone out there. But I went out to this school, and it was a year vocational school, and that at least put me in Hollywood, which I thought would be the best place for me. And now what I've learned over the past year and a half about Hollywood, I'm wondering how I lived out there all that time and was so oblivious, but I was pretty, I kept to myself and tried to stay out of the Hollywood scene. So I guess I just lucked out, not getting pulled into the beast system and all that.
For sure.
Now I'm out in Hollywood, and it's funny, my dad mentioned before I moved out, they were cool. They bought me a new car, a Ford Mustang hatchback, so I could fit my guitar and amps and luggage and everything. I remember the statement my dad told me, and it's just so funny. In hindsight, he said, Jeff, we support it, whatever you want to do, and we know how much you love music. I'd been playing since viola in first grade, and they knew music was my destiny. But they also knew what a dicey proposition the entertainment business was, even from their naive perspective back in Dayton, Ohio. And my dad actually told me, Jeff, when you're on your way out to LA, you might as well just stop in Vegas, walk up to a roulette wheel and gamble, and roll the dice with your life, because that's kind of what you're doing by taking this chance.
That's funny.
And isn't it funny that here I sit all these years later, living in Las Vegas?
Yeah, there you are.
Yeah, that is. Especially roulette too. I love that. He says go put something on roulette where there's so many chances and options per spin.
Yep. City of lost wages. So I moved out to Hollywood and I did the whole trip, and we can talk about that. But what really, and we'll just fast forward, we can go back through the Megadeth. We can go back through, any of that stuff. Flash forward to about 1994. Now we're in the time of the O.J. Simpson trial and the L.A. riots, which I lived through. I could see, I could stand right outside my rehearsal space, and I could see I had a perfect vantage of all the smoke and everything that was happening. And I wrote a lot of songs during that time, being out there in that environment. But it got just a little too crazy out in Hollywood, even for yours truly. So, and at this point, my father, shortly after I left Megadeth, my father got lung cancer. And in hindsight, he never smoked a cigarette in his life, perhaps from asbestos on Navy ships. I'm seeing that he was in the Navy. Told me a lot of stories about that, about how the world works from what he learned being around a bunch of men alone out on the sea. As you can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
But the earthquake hit in 1994 in Northridge. I'm sure a lot of folks in America remember that, and that wasn't too far, the epicenter from where I lived. And at that point, it was about 4 or 5 years after I'd left Megadeth, and I was trying to put a band together, and I was having a really frustrating time trying to find the right singer and musicians who weren't opportunists. So when I woke up the morning of the earthquake, all my stuff was on the floor, and the refrigerator had moved 6 feet into the center of the kitchen. I figured that was a pretty good time to pack it up and, head back east, young man.
Here's your sign, as they say.
Yeah. So my mom, I got a brand new Mazda RX-7, sunroof, nice salary to come back and work and help her out in the family business. And I ended up going to Wharton, which, if people want to check that out, it's regarded as probably the best business school in the U.S., perhaps in the world. I don't think it's any endorsement that Trump and his kids went there, but it's definitely an Illuminati New World Order school. For example, I started falling down the rabbit hole even just in my first days back in, and isn't it odd that the company was called Matrix Systems Incorporated,
Oh, wow.
since we're all living in a matrix right now.
Yeah.
But isn't it odd that one of the guest speakers that came in during one of the executive education workshops that I attended was one of President Ronald Reagan's aides, right-hand men. And he explained to the class, which I guess is perfectly cool to do at an Illuminati school,
Mm.
how the government totally manipulates the economy around wars and elections.
Yep.
You can imagine that was a pretty eye-opening workshop.
Yeah, I mean they put it out there right
So
for
I
you.
knew I wasn't in Kansas anymore then and there.
All right. Yeah.
But that was just like a little teaser.
Yeah.
Flash forward, I forget exactly what year they built the Denver airport. You guys could Google that, but I was working at Matrix and we actually bid the Denver airport. And just to give you what's involved in bidding a major airport job, the first thing you do when you need to establish, okay, what type of security system does this facility require? You have experts, which are project managers that have been doing this in system after system. They've probably worked at other companies in the industry, and they're used to going out on construction sites in various stages. It could be a building that's finished all the way back to a building that's just being built and any incarnation thereof. And our project managers, it would be one or two cats. You got usually a sales guy, a service guy, and a project manager are going to go walk the perimeter of a job. In this case, it was the Denver airport. Okay. So we sent our project managers out because we were going for it. We were going to bid that job. We were going to compete with all the big monsters in the industry and try to get the Denver airport job.
The place is so cool looking.
Funny thing, and it struck me odd the day I remember sitting in the conference room when we had the meeting when the project managers got back from Denver, and they were talking about their experience and what they saw, and they were kind of laughing about it, about the baggage claim system. And I don't know why it struck me odd. Maybe it was just an intuitive kind of thing. But one of the project managers was talking. He was like, yeah, so odd that this baggage claim system that they're trying to employ out there, it's like nothing we've ever seen. Crazy. You could stand a person up in these things.
Damn.
And I just thought about that for a minute, and I wasn't awake at all. You know, and this is before 9/11. That's just weird, you know, and I knew that, you know, skis were big, golf clubs, surfboards, these kind of things that people would travel with, but just that project manager's choice of words, you know, the baggage claim, it kept breaking down. And isn't it odd that the only other place that they had tried to implement this type of baggage claim was Philadelphia? The history of that city in our nation's evolution.
Right.
So anyway, I digress. That was peculiar to me, and it kind of just hung with me over the years. You know, you could stand a person up in the baggage claim. And keep in mind the type of meetings this would be a typical meeting that we would have at Matrix.
Right.
There was a gentleman that was pitching to us a new type of security device because there's card readers. We've all now seen the retina scanners and some of the full body scanning that's happening in airports. Keep in mind, back at this time, none of that was allowed or permissible. And again, we're pre 9/11. We're pre the war on quote unquote terror. So there was a gentleman that contacted us out of the blue, and he wanted to come to take a meeting with us about a brand new form of security reader that he had developed, he'd invented, that scanned your finger, not just your fingerprint. He came in with this machine, you know, it was about, 2.5 feet long, looked like a giant pencil sharpener, and you would stick your finger in this thing, and it would rotate around your finger and take a profile of your entire finger. And the premise he was pitching was every person's finger geometry is different. Therefore, you put your finger in this reader, You don't have to hassle with carrying a card. You just put your finger in and you can gain access to a door, a secured area, etc. So, after he leaves, the kind of conversation we got to have is, well, yeah, but, someone could cut off someone's arm, cut off their wrist right at the wrist and stick it in the reader and get in, right? Just like in the movies.
Easy
So
peasy.
that's a typical day in the office at Matrix Systems. So
Sounds right.
again, early 90s, my father had passed away, so I worked in the company for about 3.5 years. That's when I went to Wharton, and I was also fortunate enough to, travel the country and benchmark some great companies that had gone through turning around their business when they were in turmoil, and I was able to apply all those principles and what I learned at Wharton, and we were able to save the company for my mom, and our family heritage and dynasty was intact, and everything was cool. But around that time, 3.5 years into it, I'm living in Dayton, Ohio. I'm getting the itch. I'm getting the itch to play guitar again. And even though I'm in Dayton, there's a guy at Matrix, the drafting guy was a drummer. He goes, well, I know a singer. One thing led to another, and I was playing, in the clubs around Dayton, just having fun. And, that led me back into reading guitar magazines and getting back into, checking out what was going on the scene. And through a guitar maker out of New York, I met the Assad family, which led me to, about a decade after Megadeth, I was able to write and produce another #1 album and tour the world. And we opened for Joe Cocker in Europe and got to tour Brazil and Australia, New Zealand, all over, and that was really cool. Unfortunately, at the height of that, I got a call from my mother, and she had cancer. And cut a long story short, she passed away, and my brother and I were 50% owners of this business that we had no business owning, So now I had to go back again and do this again and work in the business, despite the fact all I wanted to do was play guitar. So I did another 3.5 years to get us $4.5 million out of debt. And it was through this process where I learned so much about how the world works. But get this, during that Brazilian tour, it's these little pieces, and it's almost like a trail of breadcrumbs. And I'm sure everyone's drama and story, how they woke up, is different. But here Baji and I are in the early 90s flying in to do a gig in Boulder, Colorado, and we have to fly into the Denver airport. Now I'm a thinking bear, so when I'm coming down the escalator and I see a sign that instead of welcome to Los Angeles or welcome to New York or welcome to London, like we see in every city that we land in when we fly, when we're on the way to baggage claim. It just struck me odd that in Denver it said on the sign, as we're on the way to baggage claim, welcome to the New World Order. And I was like, what is that? Welcome to the New World Order? What's this? And I started noticing other things peculiar about this cryptic airport, like the Nazi-looking hammers that are in the floor mosaic and in the bathroom tiles. And as you travel from tarmac to tarmac in the little trams through these dark tunnels, why are there thousands of Nazi hammers coming out of the wall that all the sheeple are just standing there ignoring?
It is the strangest looking thing.
In my mind.
Makes me think of Pink Floyd, The Wall.
I arrived in the main terminal and saw these peculiar murals. I just couldn't resist whipping out my camera and filming all those murals. So I have to say that, despite the fact Denver Airport has received many complaints about those murals, the first thing I thought when I walked by the murals is, okay, people are, taking their lives in their own hands. They're going on these, bullets flying through the air, and it's already a tedious experience. So when they land in the Denver Airport, I'm thinking the last thing they want to see is these creepy pictures with children in coffins and giant skull figures and Nazi-looking outfits, swinging swords that pierce the dove of peace. And we all know it's on the imagery. And if you haven't, you can Google it. So I videoed that, and I know they've taken a few of them down, but somewhere on video I got to find it and extract it and put it up on YouTube. I got all of them. So that was another little thing that made me say, what's this all about? And then I didn't think much about it till flash forward later. And now we're post 9/11, and I didn't wake up right on that day. I was caught up like a lot of people in the terrorist attack. Flash forward to my first marriage and our first child, and a great holistic doctor in Sarasota, Florida, that told me, "Hey, Jeff, your wife's pregnant. You guys aren't thinking of vaccinating that child, are you?" I said, "Well, I hadn't really thought about it. I was vaccinated when I was a kid, but not very many that I can remember." He says, "Well, you really want to research this." So he gave me this big, thick book, in a 2-videotape set called Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse by Leonard Horowitz. This is a book that at the time, and probably still this day, you're not going to find in your local bookstore, because as the speaker says at the beginning of the video, this is a book that they don't want you to read. So you would have had to find it online, and keep in mind back at the time online was very primitive, or by other underground means. So again, the book is called Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse. I'm sure it's on YouTube in its entirety. And the book was thick, and there's a lot of documentation, and a lot of the stuff, I got to admit, at the time that I was listening to the cat talk about was over my head. But this is back in 2000, and this cat was talking about HARP and GMOs and gematria.
Damn.
Codes that are hidden in the Bible. He didn't use the word gematria, but the healing codes for the biological apocalypse that can,
It's pretty crazy.
He talked about in the thing of how AIDS was contracted by Nixon and Kissinger and developed at Rockefeller Hospital in Chicago, Zionist capital of the country, by Dr. Gallo, and all the paperwork's there for anyone to find, just most people don't have the time while they're on the hamster wheel every day to go be seeking out such documentation, even if it is public. So this video, my ex-wife cried when we were watching this video by the end of it, because it was a reality that I don't think either one of us were prepared for. And even at the time, some of the stuff was over my head, like the GMOs and, what they were doing to the animals, and where mad cow disease was coming from. All that, it was a lot to take, but I started waking up then, and needless to say, we didn't vaccinate our kids.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the series of my awakening. And then the more I just, over the years, started looking into 9/11, and then thinking back, once I started looking at vaccines, and in this video, this was the trip. Towards the end of this video, Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse, what does this cat end up talking about and showing pictures of? But the Denver airport. And then that's when it all hit me. Those years back at Matrix and the research on vaccines, worlds collided, and I was awake. It just slapped me awake. And then I started looking into 9/11 and vaccines and, what they're doing to foods. I stopped eating fast food back in 1984 when I was going to GIT, just because I wasn't feeling right.
Yeah,
so there you go.
To cut back on that myself. That's probably.
So sorry, that was a little long in detail, but again, when people are wondering who's this guy think he is to be speaking out truth to power, I think I got some references and some pedigree to be stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate the story too. How's my audio coming through? Okay for you, Jeff?
Yeah,
I guess I should say.
I hear you fine.
All right.
Every once in a while, Jeff.
I definitely appreciate you coming on, Jeff. That's a fantastic story. That I feel like I heard a lot of myself in there. Just some of the things you said about just picking up things along the way. Little breadcrumbs that you didn't even know that were going to apply later, but they were made note of.
And it was sent for me. Like,
right.
There's a reason we wake up, and I didn't ask to wake up. I'm getting chills talking about it because it's so powerful.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit with this knowledge. The knowledge, it ain't fun. You know, the saying ignorance is bliss that's a cliche for a reason. You know, all these cliches are cliches for a reason.
Yeah, they are.
But then the other things I started thinking about, okay, you know, use your noodle, people. Think of any airport in any city. I mean, I've been touring looking at airports and staring out plane windows at the supposed curve since my 20s, right?
Yep.
Think of any airport in any city, anywhere on the planet. What's
Yep.
around every airport? Everything. You got hotels, you got rental car places, you got strip joints, you got fast food. You got every kind of everything buttoned right up to that airport.
Mm-hmm.
What's around Denver Airport?
Yeah, a
A
lot
whole lot
of
of nothing. It's the most cryptic, creepy, the architecture. Go check out the aerial view of the architecture. There's nothing around that. Because when my project managers at Matrix came back and said you could stand up a person could stand up in those baggage claims, that's because that's what it's for. There's an underground city under there, people.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Why would they choose the mile-high city of Denver? Huh. Let's put on our thinking caps, shall we? Well, if there was some sort of a pandemic like Bill Gates and Ted Turner and Oprah Winfrey, the pandemic czars, are threatening about, mostly Gates and Turner, but
Mm-hmm.
Oprah's in there.
Yeah, I agree.
6 or 7 other shitbags.
Yep.
You know, you're a mile high after a pandemic. That's where it's going to clear up. Everything settles. You know, if you live in Los Angeles in the Valley or even in Vegas, you know, everything settles in the Dust Bowl. So they're a mile high up there. They can stay under there. And if, you know, I watched a documentary on some of these amazing multi-million-dollar underground facilities for the elite. You know, I could live like that for, you know, however many years.
Oh yeah.
So that's Denver Airport, and that's vaccines, and that's 9/11, and we all know the rest if we've been following gematria, and that they brought the buildings down 33 years later and instituted the 9/11 dialing code the same year they broke ground on the Twin Towers so that we would all already be used to that tragic date, you know. So here we are, and, you know, every year, you know, 9/11 passed, and I got to just tell a short thing and give a plug. You can check it out on my Patreon wall at patreon.com/Jeff Young. The first video I put up there is a song from my solo album, Equilibrium. And pretty much the only reason I see to write songs is to either A, heal people with sound frequency, and or B, to encode truth in the lyrics to help wake people up like Bob Marley did so eloquently before they took him from us.
Mm-hmm. Peaceful, you know, he did everything
I'll tell
peacefully.
you how it happened. It was right after my mom died. You know, my mom died 9 years after my father from cancer that she was taking. I remember like it was yesterday. And again, it seems like an aside, but it's not, because it all ties to how the beast system takes us out. My mom came home one day and pushed a prescription across the kitchen counter to me and said, Jeff, you know, she'd been having a lot of problems with menopause. And the doctor prescribed her a medicine that she told me could cause uterine cancer. And I said, so don't take it.
Yeah.
She took it, and she died in a hospital in Tijuana trying to do live cell therapy, because that's, you know, that's banished and outlawed in the United States, because they don't want any live cells being injected in your body, only dead shit to kill you.
Right.
So now, through all these processes, being involved with the government and these police, you got to keep in mind, who are we dealing with in the security industry but ex-cops and ex-government personnel and all these kind of macho douchebags. So, you know, and coming from the music industry, you can imagine it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do from 9 to 5, but, you know, that's the path I took, and here I am. So during this time, you know, my mom, 10 years after my father, she got cancer. This is right at the height, and it's so weird because right at the height of my life when Megadeth was flying high and I had a platinum album, you know, and everything's great. My father got cancer and died. And then A decade later, I fought my way back up, had another number one album at the height, just soaring and flying, and my mom got cancer, and the universe yanked the rug out from under me again. And I think that's a lesson for everyone. Our lives move in cycles, and that's kind of the equilibrium. And I called my album that because there seems to be this, universal balancing of giving us our life lessons with one hand a blessing and then kicking our ass on with the other fist.
Right.
So right when my mom passed away, and I don't know if anyone's had a parent or someone very close to you pass away, but there's a feeling that comes over you. It's like you're shaken to your core, and you have like an awareness. You're just so fragile and frail that there's an awareness, and you're more awake than you are at other times when maybe, happiness and all the luxuries of life can kind of numb you to what's real. During that time, right after my mom passed, Baji, my music partner, and I, we were living in the house, in her house, and it was this big 3-story house in Dayton. So you can imagine just two people, big 3-story kind of small mansion, was a little creepy. And we were preparing to go out on this big Lilith Fair Festival tour, Sarah McLachlan's tour. And I'm going to be honest with your listeners, we were all going to a movie one night, and we smoked a joint on the way to the theater. And we all pulled into the parking lot and looked at each other and said, let's turn around and go home and practice. We went back to the house, and Baji started bringing out all these weird instruments that were made by hand in Brazil. And you'll hear them at the beginning of the song on this City of the Sun tune on my Patreon. And I pulled out a 12-string, and the percussionist got behind her percussion kit, and we ended up writing this song, most of it in one night, and the lyrics even started coming in. We were writing them really fast, and we were like, what is this song about? The lyrics weren't making sense to us at all, but the way we were, believing at the time in our philosophy of songwriting is, it's not really us writing the song, that songs exist out in the ether somewhere. And if we can just, open ourselves up by being clear and practicing, doing yoga, not drinking and dumbing our shit down, doing drugs, the universe will give you messages or give you songs or use you as a vehicle. And it's so odd because these lyrics we wrote, because the song had this Middle Eastern intent, like the music was all Middle Eastern, the scales were all Middle Eastern, which is, I know we're going to talk about sacred geometry and scales here in a minute. We decided we were going to sing the lyrics in Portuguese to make it sound more exotic. So as soon as the lyrics were coming out of us, we were translating into Portuguese. And then when we went on tour to perform the song, which it got standing ovations every night, it was this epic, like going on 8-minute, 9-minute song that evolved over improvisation as we played it out live. I kind of forgot what the lyrics were about, to be honest. And it just became another song we did live, and she was singing in Portuguese and I was doing my parts, and the guitar parts were challenging. So I kind of didn't really think about it. And this was all 3 years before 9/11 when we wrote this song. Flash forward to a point after 9/11, and Baji and I had broke, and she'd moved back to Brazil. And now I was recording the song for my own album, Equilibrium. And I was going to have another singer sing it, and I thought it would be more universal if I switched the lyrics back from Portuguese to English. So as I sat there transcribing the lyrics from Portuguese to English that we wrote 3 years before 9/11, the chills up my arms and the hair on the back of my neck began to stand up, because I realized these lyrics were a prophecy, and they described everything that happened that day in like scary detail.
That's wild.
And when you listen to the lyrics, so I made that lyric video just recently, and I tell this story because, we had released the song, and we had written it so long ago, and the song's been out. My Equilibrium, CD's been sitting there on iTunes, and every year 9/11 came around and went, and I wanted to do a slideshow video about it and post it, and I didn't, and I bit my tongue and didn't say anything on the radio show. Music Without Boundaries I'll be on my 6th year here, May 21st. But this last year I said, screw it. I'm going to do this slideshow video. I'm going to get it out there, and this will be my first video on Patreon. and I'm going to put this out there, and I'm going to do a slideshow with all the imagery from 9/11 with these lyrics, and hopefully it's going to be something that's pretty powerful for people and poignant. They're going to feel, wow, they wrote this song and these lyrics 3 years before. This is, it's powerful, and maybe make people stop and think and investigate 9/11 a little farther. So, I put that video out this year, and, so that's floating around. But the year before, on 9/11, I decided to do a 9/11, truth show. And I played a lot of clips. I got some testimonies from survivors and other people in New York, police, firefighters, and architects and engineers, people who suspect the official story. And I began my quest. That was when I began. You can go back on my radio show. It's archived. We've been speaking truth to power for going on a year and a half. It'll be 2 years, at the end of this year. Mm-hmm. All different subjects. And the weird thing is, once you tune your frequency, I think, okay, once I came out, it's like other people started finding their way to me, mm-hmm. And I've had everyone on my radio show from Mark Sargent, who, I asked him on the show if he was a shill, and I like the guy. I said, I'd like you, man, even if you are a shill. Mm-hmm. But I had him on a few times so we could investigate that. And YouTube, and my investigations on YouTube led me to Zachary K. Hubbard and his channel, and that was a huge awakening for me. Mm-hmm. And something that didn't take me more than 4 or 5 videos to say this is real, and this cat ain't fucking around. He's on to something. And I think it's because of my background with the sacred geometry and music, and the fact that Pythagoras was the one that made up the music scale, and here we are, full circle, and we're right here at the Freemasonry and this whole deal, and the beginning of the wool being pulled over our eyes. Mm-hmm. So it all just kind of coalesced and combined in the amalgamation of my life. It was experiences, in the company, working my way up from janitor to CEO at the company. Because my parents died, I was forced into that, and forced into waking up and like shaken awake, and it's kind of like I liken it to when Neo in the Matrix, the first Matrix, he wakes up bald in that pod. Mm-hmm. And you realize the world, you're not in Kansas anymore, and the world's not this warm, fuzzy place where we're all in the merry-go-round. It's a little bit more gray and a little more dark, a little more barren than we thought it was.
Oh yeah.
So that's my awakening, and I guess that's who in the hell I think I am to be speaking truth to power. So I've been researching. I'm lucky because I don't have to work in an office that, I'm a good enough guitar player that I can sit here many hours a day while I'm practicing.
Hey, Jeff.
I can watch truth videos or read stuff literally while I play. And so I've felt like over the past 2 years, kind of like John Travolta in that movie Michael, where I'm just absorbing. And, once it really smacked me and I was awake and other people started finding their way to me. Another cat was Douglas Dietrich, who worked for the DOD, and Michael Aquino, the creepy military, Grandpa Munster, Church of Set freak. He was involved with him. He came on my show and gave a 7-hour truth download without taking nary a breath. People can go back and check that out. And he dropped a ton of truth, including, that Aquino is the one that made up the Roswell lie. Use the gematria right there. Aliens, a lie, right there. It's right there in the word.
It's crazy.
And that Roswell story is a lie made up by your government, because the CIA's mission is not a bunch of James Bonds out there all over the world protecting us and keeping us safe. Quite the contrary. The mission of the CIA is all and only to pull and perform psychological operations on the U.S. citizens.
Yeah.
We are public enemy number one.
Just like when people say
all be exterminated.
When people say the army's here, they fought for our freedom.
Well, it doesn't matter where you are. You're still a person. Therefore, if you have a brain inside your head, you have to be accounted for. So that's a good point.
Hence the 13 years of public school programming to completely shut down our intuition, our third eye, and any sense of, thinking clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But we can sure check a box or circle an A, B, C, or D. God damn it!
Yep.
And it's funny, aliens in English ordinal is 41, which is the 13th prime.
Mm-hmm. They love their 13s. For me, it's a lucky number. They made us all think 13 was superstitious and bad because they sacrificed those Scottish Freemasons in Paris on a Friday the 13th.
Same with 666.
Bad for them, good for us.
Right.
Lucky day, lucky 13.
That's my lucky 13 as well. I'm with you.
It's like that episode of Seinfeld when George Costanza finally learned to do everything the opposite. That's the secret, people. We're all salmon. Truth seekers are salmon swimming upstream. Just look at what the prevailing current is doing, what the government's telling you to do, and do the opposite.
That's it.
Somebody just pointed out Alien is 216 and Satanic. Yeah, if you're just tuning in, we've got Jeff Young on. My name's Aaron. We've got Jeff A here. Jeff Young has just been, sharing a fantastic story, his journey. You can check him out. He's got his own radio show. It's Music Without Boundaries. Jeff, what day are you running on Music Without Boundaries?
Tomorrow night, Monday nights, we have a great show planned tomorrow night. We go on live at 7:11 p.m. Pacific time, 10:11 Eastern Standard Time, and whatever time it is, wherever you are on the plane. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we're hi-fi, we're live, we're on Spreaker. It's the same network that hosts Tommy Chong's fine show, and Susan Powder. Stop the Insanity. She went underground, and she's got a great talk show where she's awake. All of us that are awake got off corporate TV. We stay clear of the Hollywood beast system. But Spreaker's a great broadcast network, not only because they archive all the episodes. It's easy for folks to find. They don't got to go hunting and pecking, looking for the URL or the website or downloading some Windows media player to listen. When I sign on 321, a widget pops up on my wall and on my Facebooks and on my Twitter, just like a little YouTube video. You push play and you're in there. And that's what makes Spreaker so cool, and it's super hi-fi. And tomorrow night we're going to play a ton of music about taxes and the tax man, Mr. Thief.
Right.
And I will be sharing a few phone calls I made last week when I actually called the IRS and recorded them without their knowledge. So sue me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be awesome.
I called the IRS and I tried to get them to provide me just with the simple law that says we have to pay taxes. And, I don't know about you, but like if I worked in the IRS and
I'd be doing some digging.
even if I wasn't awake, I'd have a filing cabinet with a folder right next to me with that little paragraph or that page or those pages of laws, so I could quickly mail or jet out in an email to anyone inquiring, because I was so polite when I asked this lady, and I actually talked to two different departments. I talked first to
That's it.
yeah, I might even call and talk to them again tomorrow and play a third call, see what I can do. But I talked to well, it took me a couple times to get to someone that actually I could talk to that seemed to have a brain. So I talked to the first person and tried to get her to send me the law, and I didn't have a lot of luck. So I called back and I got the legal department of the IRS on the phone and tried to get him to send me the law. And he pointed me to something on the IRS website that I would equate to the Flat Earth Society.
That's funny.
We don't have a time for the meeting of the folks who want to know if there's really a law to pay taxes society.
Right.
So those calls should be riveting for people to hear, and I'm going to be telling you other stuff about taxes, and the mission of the show tomorrow night is literally to get as many people across the planet to stop paying their taxes this year as I can.
It's a great goal.
Well, hey, I remember several months ago, we had basically just mirrored, your live broadcast on the site. So, we'll definitely have that up. So,
Cool.
so folks can tune in and hear as well. you have quite the taste in music. I think I have to say also. What what would you attribute that to? I mean, if you want
Well,
to
the cool
touch on
thing
that.
as a musician, again, this is the luxury. I mean, being a musician it's a bitch, and especially now, that I know how the industry works. I mean, people, you got to understand that there's not one country artist in history, from Hee Haw and Buck Owens and Dolly Parton, all the way up to Blake Shelton and Keith Urban, Kelly Pickler, that's not a Freemason. You can't make it in country music if you're not a Freemason, and that's period. And you can't make it in Hollywood unless you're in the club. And Hollywood is a Zionist Jew-run town, and I'm not shy to say it. So, I'm here trying to live in, compete in, and make money from a business that's where all the cards are stacked against me. So I don't really dig that, and I don't dig the people involved in this business, so I have no qualms about what I call punching the clown, which is what I think we need to do. We need to realize that, if anyone's seen that meme that floats around, I think it's so powerful. It's got a bunch of people bent over in a square with a checkerboard on top, and the powers that be, the great usurpers, we like to call them, playing their little chessboard on our backs. And, the meme says quite simply, all we have to do is stand up, collectively stand up, and it's game over for these clowns.
That's awesome.
I'm so glad you said that.
I'm
so glad you said that.
Yeah, that's
my
amazing.
mantra is this, dude, and that's the first thing in the tax show I'm going to tell people, you got to stop being a bunch of pussies out there and letting these fuckers push us around.
Mm-hmm.
It's enough already, man. It's enough.
The question I ask is, when is enough going to be enough? You know what I mean? Like, when do we say enough's enough? I don't know.
Now.
Yeah, right.
You got to take my lead. We got to not pay our taxes, and you got to call the IRS, and you got to question them, and you got to hold these mobsters, these bullies. They're nothing but schoolyard bullies.
Yep.
To the fire. And I'm going to get into it in the show. My time where I sat on Willie Nelson's bus for 5 hours at Farm Aid with a mountain of pot in the bus, smelling like a ganja factory, when Clinton was president and Gore was vice president, and Tipper Gore came on the bus and probably went in the back and smoked a joint with Willie. And I asked Willie about his taxes, and do you think he really did time? Or do you think that might have been a psychological operation just to scare everybody?
Right.
You think Willie did any hard time, people?
They probably trained him.
Maybe
probably
he was
trained him.
just chilling. Maybe he just didn't want to tour for a while. Maybe he just wanted a vacation. And so they did that big scary story so that everyone in the U.S. got all scared, especially those people that really love Willie Nelson. That's your middle America. That's your farmers. That's the common folk, easily scared.
Christian right wing.
Easily spooked by a bullshit story about a celebrity who's doing time over tax evasion. Give me a break.
That's crazy.
So I guess he's a Mason also then.
Yeah. Like I said, not one country artist in history.
Because it's like somebody had to, build the vehicle or provide the means at first, or at least, and it gradually grew. And, seeing how the world is today, you got Coke or you got Pepsi. You just have these conglomerates on it.
Same thing with the record labels, exactly right, dude. The record labels, same way. Yeah.
So, of course, it just makes sense. It's like, why does everybody got to go to Tennessee to make it in country?
Yeah.
What goes on in Tennessee?
And I'll tell you, man.
Like the Tennessee scale. Like Tennessee scale is just the major scale, isn't it, Jeff? Is that right?
Yeah,
the
country major and
yeah.
Major pentatonic and major scale do re mi.
But they call it the Tennessee scale, like it's something special, but it's just the fucking major scale. It's crazy. Anyway.
So here we are, like REM says, stand in the place where you live.
Yeah. The secret the secret to having it all is knowing that or is believing that you already do, stand up. I dig it. But that, before I even knew that Jeff had confirmed with you that you were going to come on, which I'm really appreciative of you coming on, really sharing some great stuff. We try to follow the shout box while we're going live and take some kind of questions as they pop in. But even before Jeff told me that you were coming on, I really wanted that like to be, and I hadn't even had a chance to talk to Jeff yet. I really wanted that to be the message that, you're awake. I mean, we have the power. There's so many of us. There's, there's supposed to be 350 million of us here in this country, but yet so few control so much for so many. Just the levels of greed are astronomical, man.
Yeah.
And again, I've been at both sides. When I worked at Matrix, we had a big 6 accounting firm. Because of having customers in multiple states, I was signing tax forms 4 foot tall on my desk. I was a law-abiding, tax-paying citizen every year till the year I sold out my shares. And once I was out of the company, and by that time I was awake enough to say, the government's taken enough from me, fuck them. So I just stopped filing. And you know what? They've been coming after me and threatening me for years. You don't want to mess with us. You don't want to mess with us.
And all you're doing is being peaceful. It's peaceful non-compliance.
They ain't knocking on my door. I ain't scared of them, man.
Because you're being peaceful.
Letters.
So, and at this point, if people been following my show, a lot of people don't know, because probably a lot of first-time listeners, but the long story short, my brother ended up shafting me in our family business for $300,000 here, $300,000. So imagine if you woke up tomorrow and you had that in the bank today and woke up tomorrow, it was gone. So I've been in quite a pickle since August.
Somebody'd have to die.
I live in my girlfriend's house, and I have no car since it got repoed after all this. So right now, the IRS is threatening that threatening because I'm not paying taxes. They sent me a thing last week saying I owe $50,000 for 1 year, which makes me just laugh out loud. They haven't figured the child support that I pay. They're just pulling a number out of their ass. And my thing is, maybe people are fearful. They're afraid they're going to come take their house, which isn't really their house. They just think it's their house. Right. And their car that they think is their car. Because they own, we own nothing.
The meter.
Yeah. So my thing is, what are they going to take? My house, my car? Yeah. Come take my shoes. Come take my shoes, Mr. Taxman. You be my guest. Mm-hmm. So I'm at this point, throwing caution to the wind and just calling the powers that be out on my radio show. I'll call the IRS. I've called the Dallas Police Department during that false flag. I called all the news channels on my show. I called the same during the Orlando false flag at the Pulse. This is what we got to do.
Yeah, I think we got to do this.
Online, making videos, jerking off behind their computers, fighting each other for turf.
Yeah,
because they want to be the best truth channel, and everyone thinking they know everything about everything. When most of y'all out there on the truth channels are speaking and preaching bullshit.
It's that narcissism, you were talking about.
Most
it's just
of y'all don't have half the background I got.
Right.
I only got 2 truth videos on my channel on the Music Without Boundaries. So, I'm trying to keep it humble, and I'll put it out on my show.
You're doing the real work, Jeff. You're letting it leak into people who are wanting to, people who just want to hear music will come listen to Music Without Boundaries, and unassumingly they'll be hearing truth getting leaked into their, you're planting seeds for people. And I think that's why it's so cool that you still play music on Music Without Boundaries all the time, as well as speak truth. You didn't just go, like it's important. You know what I mean?
Listen to every song I play tomorrow night. I went through, basically the catalog of music history to find all the songs that musicians have written in protest of taxes.
I love it.
And all that. So you're going to hear
Can't wait.
The Beatles to Johnny Cash to Cheap Trick. You're going to hear so many amazing songs and lyrics from musicians who, besides me and besides Truth Seekers, who all through history have spoken out about this topic. So yeah, that's the cool thing about Music Without Boundaries, and hence the title of the show. And again, for the first years I didn't speak truth to power, but there always was a theme. And I always tried to play songs that within either the musical notes or within the lyrics that there's something magical encoded. And just to digress, you asked me about how I get all this music. And again, think about it. I have this luxury, when I mentioned flying all over and touring since my 20s, that most people don't have. Because when you graduate from high school and a lot of people get married and they start having kids and jobs and responsibilities and appointments to be at and get your kids to school on time and cook dinner and, your night out, and people don't have time to concentrate on music and to keep up on the latest bands that are coming out, which that's a big reason why the powers that shouldn't be have been able to take advantage and put so much bad low frequency music before your eyes and ears, because they know you don't have time to go out and find the great artists that they won't give record deals to, the artists that are making high frequency music that are talking about meaningful things in their lyrics. They ain't going to get the deal. You're not going to hear these artists. But what I've been doing, just because I research music, because that's how you write better music, by studying other music and the history of music. Every time we were in a town, any town USA, any town Europe, any town anywhere on the planet, we'd go into the local mom and pop record store and ask the record owner, what's the coolest music, bands, artists from your region? And I'd collect those albums or CDs or tapes. So now in the Music Without Boundaries vaults, we have, just an array of stuff that most people never get to hear in their lifetime, because all the media is owned by a small conglomerate of Zionist Jew media corporations, and they're only going to program the stuff that's going to feed their kitty.
And that's what they've taken all diversity of the human culture, just because of that right there. Like, listening to your show instead of listening to the radio, where they're going to get a cookie cutter amount of music, by going on the internet and trying to find alternate material, they get a whole array of like new songs and other stuff just to listen to. And that's like the same thing with the truth community versus the mainstream news, it's just better.
It's going to wake you up, and there's
enlighten
a
you.
Frequency in it that's going to make you feel something different, think a different way, and that's
they don't want that. Right.
They don't like that. People on Facebook, my Spreaker, when it pops up there, I told you how handy it pops up. Yeah, it pops up on my wall, but they hide it in everyone's news feed. I've done videos to show people, you can check out the Music Without Boundaries YouTube, subscribe to that, and check out my video on censorship, because if you don't think free speech is totally 100% deader than a doornail, put a fork in it, you need to watch that video and see how just yours truly has been censored on Facebook for the most trivial of what you would call offenses.
And they did it for that naked lady too, right? They did it for some like just painting of a woman too, right? That you put on there a long time ago.
Oh yeah, for the Gematria album cover, it was that beautiful picture.
Yeah,
that we posted. That would be that this Gematria album project I'm working on.
When there's so much worse that gets posted on Facebook every day, it's unbelievable.
You're seeing, art. Animals, people with their limbs blown off, people posting their surgery, their stitches, just the grossest stuff.
People are getting beat up. There's rapes that have happened on Facebook Live. I mean,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah. It's unreal.
And so you got to put that, and you got to keep that in mind as you watch this video on censorship that I did, and you see how little it takes for you to get banned, how little freedom you have to say, and I don't want to get sidetracked. They can just go watch the video and discover that. But so there's that. If you guys could do me a favor and just like maybe everybody talk amongst themselves for just 30 seconds. I've been talking here without a drink, and I want to grab one out of the fridge.
Absolutely.
Well, maybe we could move into the musical sacred geometry and how I discovered that and what that's all about. Because again, this gematria thing that so many people are discovering,
it's revealing.
There's more secrets than just language. There's more stuff that's happening
big time,
occult wise, and music and how to play music is one of those. And I don't know whether these secrets that I've discovered about sacred geometry have been hidden on purpose, like some of the other secrets, or if they're just hidden because the education and the pedagogy has been so weak that the knowledge just hasn't been shared. It's just one of those things. And when you understand, when I explain how I discovered it, because it was really thanks to just one man. one person and a tragedy that happened in his life that led him to discover how music really works. So if you'll give me just 30 seconds, talk amongst yourself, I'll be right back. And we
Yeah,
can,
we'll play a track or two, and we'll still be on, but we'll cut to some music here. So just kind
yeah,
of
play a
step back
tag.
whenever you're ready.
That's cool. Let's hear some
Yeah.
music, and then we'll talk about music and how it's created. And
Play what song do you want to hear, Jeff? You want to play Monsoon?
if you got that,
Yeah, we'll play that. Yeah, we can play it on YouTube or anything else. I don't have
the cool thing about Monsoon is the very first arpeggiated notes that you hear, which sound kind of atonal and a little bit outside. And as soon as you hear this arpeggio, you go, okay, this doesn't sound like anything else I've heard. This was literally the first progression I ever wrote after learning sacred geometry.
It's awesome.
Right? So, and it's literally a matter of once you learn it, you learn a different way of allowing your fingers to move on the neck, and you realize that musical scales, have nothing to do with how the guitar works, nothing to do with how any musical instrument works but piano. And so they've got us all speaking and talking in a musical theory that doesn't even apply to our own instruments. So we're all talking kind of out of our element, and it's great if you're a piano player, but for the rest of us, it's quite a
we're speaking different dialects.
It's a juxtaposition, and it makes the learning curve of music. It takes you 30 years what you could learn in one lesson. And that's the occult. And what I can show people in one Skype lesson is how to make every single chord known to mankind out of two parent chord shapes. One is a 3-note triad that leads to every major and minor chord, and one is a 4-note cluster that leads to every exotic, altered jazz chord. There's only 2 chords. I call it the mom and the pop, and it's a family tree of chords that fall under those 2 chords. It's the first 2 chords any child should learn in their first lesson, but yet no teacher on the planet ever starts this way except the one you're talking to right now.
Because they wouldn't be able to make all that money.
Yeah, well, it's just like martial arts. They keep you in it longer with the guilt system, and they eke the information out like helium out of a balloon instead of just giving you the stuff. This is how teachers and mystics and the government and people keep other people down by hiding information, and it makes them appear, better than, all-knowing, like the Oz story, like you're the man behind the curtain. But in reality, when a person takes one Skype lesson and I give them this rhythm guitar 101 and show them how chords work and how to create chords, they never look back. And the whole world opens up for them.
It's like it's just golden ratio.
After student at GIT come in and say, and I have another one similar on lead guitar, how I teach in one lesson how to play in any mode over any chord changes, even if the only scale is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and you can solo anyway. I give you a little chart. And those 2 lessons, my students say, those are like the best 2 lessons I've ever had in my life. And they are, because they're life-changing, and not because of me or that I'm magic any more than gematria. It's just once you learn the codes, once you learn how these formulas work, the whole world unravels.
Our world is magic. Yeah, our world is magic.
Yeah, you can decode music. You can decode the headlines. You can decode how this whole scripted reality is faked and fudged.
Before we play a song, I want to say the coolest thing I heard the other day. Somebody was talking about the one eye symbolism and how, if you look at it from a light side, like a good side of it, you could look at it as that one eye is in one me, like we're all one, So there's light occultists and dark occultists. I was listening to Mark Passio explain it from his point of view, and I think he was the one that said that, and I was like, man, that is the deepest shit I've ever heard. So the one eye, we're all one eye is in one me, and I thought that was really cool, and it goes with music, headlines, and the news, like you're saying, Jeff. It's so true, man.
Bob
And that's
used to say that.
that's how we got to look at it.
We're all one eye.
I know, I love it, man.
I one eye.
It's awesome.
And
So yeah,
Somebody posted a clip from Meet Joe Black too, where Brad Pitt's in it. He's like, Miari, I forget, but I have to
That's
look
a
it up
great
now.
quote in that movie. Yeah.
Yes, he starts straight talking to the Rasta granny in the hospital. That
Mhm.
was that was nice.
There's a line in Calling Jupiter on Equilibrium, one of the songs I saved till later in the album, that says, "We were one." Literally, the first lines, I wanted to start it out that basic, like, where did we begin? It says, "We were one. We just chose to come undone. Now we hide the truth from our own eyes. Along the edge we skate to nowhere." And that's what it is. I had a great teacher once that told me something, and I always thought about this. He said, what if, we were all one? Think of us all like, if you've ever seen a box of toothpicks, you
Hmm.
know, and at one time, the planet was all one consciousness, and we were one. But for some reason, we all chose collectively that we wanted to live this separatist, unreconciled existence. And
Mhm.
it's just like the box of toothpicks just dropped on the floor, and we just all splintered, and now we're all separate. And I think the secret is, how are we going to all find our way back together and back into that box, where we are all one and we're not splintered and isolated by the internet, by design of the controllers as they create their artificial intelligence, monitoring everything we say and do, turning us against each other, turning male against female, race against race, culture
Husband
against
against wife.
culture, while us musicians are sitting here trying to fuse the cultures. I'm sitting here trying to blend flamenco, blend Middle Eastern music, blend Brazilian, blues, jazz, classical, just to show people that we're all the same. Because that's what I learned by touring. And maybe this is the best place to go to the song. I remember sitting in a restaurant at lunch in Spain, which has a very different culture than America. They wake up early, they open their stores early, and they work for a few hours. And then everything closes down, and people have their lunch, and they even drink alcohol at lunch, and they go home and they take their naps, they have their siesta, they make love, they fall asleep, whatever. Everything's closed down. Then they open the stores later at night, in the afternoon, and they stay open later, so the people get more concentrated workflows in their day, broken up by a long period of rest. And doesn't that make more sense than the way they got us working in America, wearing us out with these 8-hour days?
Yeah,
But the point
killing
is,
yourself trying to live after hours.
I was sitting in the restaurant just looking around, because you're hearing, hundreds of people jabber in Spanish, and you don't understand anything. It's just chaos. But I was just sitting there, and I had an epiphany. And again, it was from seeing so many festivals and concerts. And I realized at the end of the day, every race, every culture, we are all one. We are all the same. And all we all want at the end of the day is we want to wake up happy with our loved ones. We want to eat breakfast, eat lunch, dinner, eat good food, talk and communicate with the ones we love, sing, play music, enjoy this beautiful planet,
Hmm.
party, have sex, dance, and go to sleep.
Be alive. Yeah.
Every country. No one's any different than anyone else. And that's when I realized, and when I started studying different styles of music like flamenco and the danceability of that, and I started realizing, wow, flamenco is very similar to funk, which couldn't seem like two more further musical styles. But what you find as you begin studying world music isn't how diverse and different and separate we are, but how exactly the same, alike. And the only thing that separated us is this fake language construct that they made up by the numbers, by gematria, because we all used to speak Sanskrit was the original one language. Why aren't we all speaking one language on this planet? Because the
After this
first
many
thing
years,
the
right?
first
Like,
thing that happens once you introduce language and you can't understand your neighbor, the first thing that results from that is misunderstanding,
conflict.
miscommunication, conflict, and mistrust and hate. And they have been milking this shit of using language to separate the flock, to conquer the sheeple, since language has been institutionalized.
Like that Led Zeppelin song, Communication Breakdown, it's always the same. You know what I mean? That one Led Zeppelin song. It's a good one.
Well said, Jeff, man. Well said, because
Jeff Young's the
me and
man.
Jeff have talked at length about this. I know we're going to get to the song right after this. If I try to tell you what I'm thinking right now, I'm confident that I couldn't do it at 100%. You're only actually going to get like maybe around 80% of what I'm actually thinking, if that, the thoughts are just swirling and flying so fast around my head. And then I have to like formulate them into words and then like say them to you. And then, you have to understand them, reprocess them in your brain. Well, what do those exact words mean? So it's like, I don't know. Everything you just said over the last like 5-10 minutes was like spot on. So I just wanted to say that, man.
Well, I try. I mean, again, and that's why I'm sharing this stuff. It's just like, and it's like when Douglas Dietrich came on my show, I told you he just went for 7 hours in there. He took a breath. This is like a truth download. The stuff is in you. And then, you guys asked me a question. You got to purge it out. You got to get it out. And this is a lifetime of learning. It doesn't come easy. It don't come with fun. It ain't fun waking up in the pod. You're bald with the sticky shit all over you like Neo was in the Matrix when he realized he wasn't in Kansas anymore. And again, that's kind of like what Monsoon is about. It's realizing you've woken up in this world that's a swirl. You're in chaos. But there's that great Asian proverb. It's just a symbology, like be the butterfly in the hurricane, just still in the center of the eye of the storm.
And share your experience.
That's all we can do as people. That's what waking up is about. And that's all this quest is about. Because regardless of how out of control the powers that shouldn't be, the great usurpers want to take this world away from anything that's pure or organic or natural or intuitive. We can be in it, but not of it. We can be right in the middle of it, but not allow it to consume us and turn us cynical and jaded. Because this is my thing, and this is why I was speaking truth to power hard and trying to wake a lot of people up and shake people awake for about 1.5 years. And then I got to the point where I realized, look, it's enough for me to know. And if I can wake up the people I love around me, it's enough, man. I don't really care. And I'm not going to waste my life, however much time we have. Because like Ted Nugent told me when I interviewed him on MTV for Headbangers Ball, he said, and the guy might be a clown, but he's also very smart. He said, you're born at point A and you die at point Z. In between, kick maximum ass. And I'm not going to lose my time trying to shake awake a bunch of sheep that think they know it all when they don't know shit. What I'm going to do is suck the marrow out of the bone of life, like Robin Williams says in Dead Poet Society. I'm going to learn about as much about music. I want to go out of this world knowing as much about how it really works as I can. I don't want to be lied to, just like Prince said in that Stuart Smalley interview. I don't like being lied to. I don't like the wool being pulled over my eyes. So, and if I can wake some people up along the way, that's cool. But there's no power, there's no value for any of us if we sit here wasting our lives, bitching and moaning about what these scumbags that are in control are doing to us and not living. We got to get out and live. You got to get off the hamster wheel and do what you love, whether it's music for me, if it's bike riding for you, if it's getting out with your kids, going to the beach, arts and crafts, hang gliding, mountain climbing, whatever, working in a soup kitchen. We got to do something of value on this planet while we're here to contribute something positive.
And once you do create something positive, give it to someone else,
That's the, yep.
Because it's love.
Right. That's the point.
Hate, all this order out of chaos, all the divide and conquer that all the truth channels are pitting against each other, some of them even well-intentioned just because of their ego. It's all bullshit.
Yeah, I'm just
behind your computer, creating a bunch of noise and more
Right.
distortion, drama, and distraction in this world, when the only thing this world needs now is love, sweet love, people.
And I
Just
just,
get out and make
hell
your
yeah.
light shine, make it bright, stop promoting negativity and bullshit.
Yeah, and don't follow channels that promote negative shit. Follow channels that are, doing things. And we all shouldn't be just sitting on YouTube and watching videos all day anyways. I mean, once you have the truth and you realize your power, then at some point you have to start to, act on it and start growing yourself food and start giving it to others and start, practicing counter economy and all that. So, there's all kinds of stuff we can get into, but we're gonna play a song real quick, aren't we, Aaron?
Yeah,
You
let's
said,
do that. Let's do that now.
okay.
That's a great segue.
Right.
This is
In that person's consciousness when they come back. And isn't that funny? His album's called Consciousness, that won him so much praise. But the universe just so happened to drop this pebble of consciousness into Pat Martino's psyche. And it was how he learned how to play guitar again, all over again. And he taught himself, he started to begin to understand the sacred geometry of music and the hidden patterns in music. And, without being able to show you some of the charts and the graphics, the easiest way to explain what sacred geometry is from a guitar player's perspective, because, guitar and piano are probably the most popular instruments. Let's start
Andy
here.
McKee's really into him too, actually.
The guitar as an instrument, the guitar is structured like no other instrument. And it unveils itself, or it unveils itself in a unique way, which is usually with a series of teachers throughout your life that only make it longer and the learning curve more horrific for the aspiring guitarist or virtuoso. The problem begins because the communal language of music, and that's the language that all musicians share, which is the language of scales, musical scales. Even non-musicians know do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. The language of scales in music theory and intervals, the distance between notes. And this is how we communicate. This is how musicians communicate. This is how the pedagogy and, from beginning, junior high and high school music books all the way up through your university curriculum. All these scales have nothing to do with any instrument except piano. So think about what I'm saying. You got a world of musicians playing exotic instruments of all different tunings and different key signatures, some in different treble clefs. But we're all communicating as if we're piano players, despite the fact that our instruments do not function. They're not constructed like a piano. So this makes the whole business of learning to play musical instruments for everyone but pianists excruciatingly difficult. But again, what does a cult mean? It's not the Hollywood spooky, movie occult definition that so many people hold dear. A cult just means a hidden language. It could be a language like gematria. It could be a hidden language like music, And musicians are like magicians in a way. The best musicians, when you watch them on stage, they make it look effortless, like they're not even trying. Like watch Stevie Wonder blind playing all these amazing piano parts. He's not even trying, or Tori Amos, or when you see Hendrix, their eyes are closed. They're not even looking at the neck of the guitar, and they're just playing all this amazing stuff. How does this happen?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Possessed. The channeling someone's
but once we wake up and understand, and most musicians live their whole life. We're going to say 99% of musicians live their life and die not knowing that scales don't apply to their instrument. You see, because let's just use piano versus guitar. Like piano, the guitar has its own unique temperament. the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do scale. On the piano, when you spell out the basic C scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and this is easy for non-musicians, that's 7 notes. And those are the white keys on the piano. And then you have the black keys just above, and they're patterned a little bit differently, and there's all weird geometry to the piano. And Jeff, you and I talked about that the other day.
Yeah.
The 5 black keys spell out a D sharp pentatonic minor scale starting on the 7th degree C sharp. So when you combine those 2 groups of notes, you get all 12 notes of the octave, which is the chromatic scale. That's if you were to start on the low E of a guitar and just stay on the E string and just play every fret from your open to E all the way up to your 12th fret, there's your chromatic scale. So what you have there is a 7 plus 5 system of addition. It's a horizontal system based on the fact that the piano goes from left to right, from lower pitch with your left hand to a higher pitch on the right side of the keyboard. This is where scales come from, which are part of the community language, which we all use to function with other musicians so we can discuss modes, scales, chords, how songs are arranged, etc. But scales have nothing to do with how the guitar works, people. Nothing, zero, zilch. Because the guitar does not work horizontally. Does it? Well, it does, but it doesn't only work horizontally. Because think of it, you can go up from a low string on a guitar, but you can also, if you're looking at the nut or where you tune the guitar up to the high part where the bridge is and where you pick, but you can also start on the low string and you can go up to the higher strings. So that makes the guitar where the piano is just a horizontal axis. On the guitar, you have an XY axis. So now you're dealing with a system of multiplication, not addition. You see? It's math.
It's
all back
I
to
think
numbers.
the best
The piano
word.
works on addition. The guitar works on multiplication. And until you learn that, you can't. It's just until you learn gematria, you can't see how the world works. So you're not going to see how your instrument works. You're going to spend 30 years running around in a maze blindfolded, coming up against a bunch of dead alleys. Or you can take one Skype lesson with me, and then it's all going to be explained and revealed to you. You can go write a song like Monsoon.
Yeah, hang on. It's breaking
So
up
that's
just a little
the
bit, Jeff,
essence,
but
because
where
the
can they reach you
guitar.
at for lessons?
Go ahead. Sorry, you were cutting out because of the Skype, that little
Yeah.
fibrillation we were talking about.
Yeah. Where can folks reach you for lessons?
Patreon, right?
And
How can they reach you?
it's easy, and even if you're not a guitar player, I mean, a guitar player could obviously do this one lesson. We could continue, but I'm happy to do counseling sessions with musicians who play any instrument or people who just want to understand how sacred geometry works. We can do an hour and 90-minute consultation. I can show you with my guitar. You can be on your instrument, or I can just show you how it works. And I give handouts so you can take it away and read about it, because it's something that you get it in one lesson, but then you need to be able to apply it, and you need to start walking the talk, and using what you've learned in your life, whether it's in music or just, how you live your life. Because, the things you learn in music, I think it's so valuable that there's so many tricks that I wish I could share with non-musicians that you learn as a musician. It just makes your brain work different, makes you think different.
It says here on Jeff's Patreon page, these are what you call life-changing lessons, guaranteed to kickstart your playing as well as your imagination. Zen Guitar Quest is a way of life.
Yep. And you just write me at Jeff Young Music at GMX. That's giraffe, manatee. And what's an animal that starts with X? So it's Jeff Young Music at GMX.com. I got off Yahoo, Netanyahu, that browser, people, with that. They just made it look cute and with colorful logo, but that's a Zionist search engine platform, Yahoo.
Yep.
That goes back to Netanyahu, the Zionist piece of shit. And I got off Gmail, so you can find me at jeffyoungmusic at gmx.com. I'm also on the Jeff Young Music at protonmail.com. All4truth uses that proton mail. CERN, if that's CERN mail.
Yeah.
So they can write me either place. The lessons are really reasonable, price. I'll show you all that. I should be charging, like, I know a vocal teacher, kind of one of my peers, that's charging $600 for Skype lessons, vocal lessons. I charge like 60.
Well, and just so people know, Jeff's charging.
Hour.
Yeah, it's Jeff's charging $60. Most guitar lessons are like 30 minutes, and Jeff's giving you an hour. For what people charge for a half an hour, and he can teach you a lot more than your local guitar teacher. I guarantee it. So, yeah.
An hour goes by pretty fast. So most students go for 90 minutes, and that's $80. So you're basically getting 10 minutes free.
It's a deal.
$60. Do the math. $60 is $1 a minute of my time. You get 90 minutes, you're getting 10 minutes free for $80. And, that's a great deal. And again, it's music changes your life, and looking at music from sacred geometry changed my life. Like I said, those first opening strains, those arpeggios in Monsoon, I wouldn't have wrote them. I was literally doing it and following the sacred geometry that I had learned and read about in this article, and it just came out. And so once you begin, just to cut to the chase, because I can't reveal obviously all the secrets of sacred geometry or I wouldn't make any money. And musicians are already not making any money because people are downloading and raping our stuff online. And the younger generation just thinks that's just hunky-dory. But to cut to the chase, the folks that are familiar with gematria, it's the same kind of application, just applied to the musical scale. Again, let's think back to who created the musical scale, Pythagoras. And and keep in mind, we're talking the Western musical scale. One of the things I provide in my guitar lessons is a history of all the creation of all the musical scales from Chinese, India, Gypsy scales. I've got a handout that breaks every scale known to man from all cultures down, so you can kind of see the history. But right now we're focusing on the Western music and Pythagoras, who of course was the Greek philosopher, 570 to 490 BC. He spent 22 years in Egypt, mainly with the high priest in Memphis, where he became initiated into their secret knowledge of the gods. When the Persians conquered Egypt, he was kept in captivity in Babylon for 16 years before he could return to Greece and begin his teaching. So think about that in the context of Freemasonry and scales and etc., and occult knowledge and the whole hidden secret society. So, what I'm putting out there is there's a secret method of music and how to understand and play music. And the theory as it evolved, it might have evolved for piano, but not so much for other instruments. And that's what we got to deal with, if we want to create new, interesting, and exciting music in the future that doesn't sound the same. Maybe the reason all music sounds the same is because people they're all exploring the same patterns. People all using the same pure genres, not combining and not thinking outside the box. So again, once you learn the sacred geometry, it lets you be free, and you're not confined anymore to thinking of scales and this very pattern-based approach on guitar, which is very limiting when you have an XY axis to play with. So there you go.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I think it really ties in with the whole golden ratio and the, obviously what is it called? The Fibonacci sequence and all that good stuff. I mean, once you realize that all this stuff is connected, it's hard to not believe that, everything on this earth is something special. And like I said before, with the one eye thing that I learned about, we're all just, and you said, Bob Marley talked about, we're all one eye, we're all together here. And, if you're just following YouTube channels and just spending your time sitting at your house, if that's what it takes to wake you up, that's fine. I guess all of us have to go through that period of research. But what Jeff's telling you is that you can use all this stuff and apply it. He applied it to the guitar, and he made the guitar his bitch, basically. Like he's learned all that he wants to know about it, or not all. He's still learning every day. I mean, there's more to learn. I mean, you can't. It's limitless is the information when when it comes to this sacred geometry and just the way nature is. Like we're all together, and we all need to try to work together instead of. And he did it with guitar. He worked with music. We can work with people. We can work with music. We can work with animals. We can work with whatever it is that is your passion.
Yeah, whatever your field is, I do it with music because that's my palette. Just
Right.
like a painter has his paint, a ballerina has her thing, a martial artist has his thing, a doctor has his tools. A mason has his stuff that he builds his foundation and his buildings, his architecture with. Once you have the truth, once you know the truth, then you need to use the truth through a vehicle that you love, whether it's working in a soup kitchen, doing a radio show, or using gematria, sacred geometry, or any of the combination. When you write your lyrics, when you write your music and you encode the frequencies, the messages in the song to get across to the people, because again, and I say this all the time, I might be a hopeless romantic and totally delusional, but I still believe music and frequency, because when you boil everything down, everything comes down to sound and the sound spectrum. And if sound ceased, we would be a blank void. Everything comes back to sound. Sound can heal us.
Have you checked out Michael Tellinger?
Mm-hmm.
That guy, Michael Tellinger, dude, he's awesome. Have you seen him talk about that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sound can heal.
Yep, it
Let
does.
me give you an example. A friend of mine does, it's a new kind of therapy. Think of acupuncture, okay? But instead of needles, she uses all sizes of tuning forks. And think about this. So you lay on a massage table, and there's small tuning forks from the ones you're used to seeing in a music store that you would hit on the thing and tune your guitar, to big, fat, thick ones that emote deep tones, some so low you don't even hear them when they whack them on the side of the table. So you're on a massage table, and because our body is mostly water, sound travels farther in water. True?
Damn.
That's why whales and dolphins, and they can hear so far through the water.
Yeah.
She would whack these different tuning forks and put them on my meridians all over my body, very much like a non-invasive acupuncture. And at first I thought, okay, what is this going to do for me? But once I laid on the table and let her give me an hour treatment with all these different size tuning forks, putting them on and you feel the vibration going through your body when they put them on your meridians and your chakras. I got up off that table and my body was in tune.
Do you tell them which ones you like? Like, do you use it? Do you kind of like tell them which?
They use it. No, they use it in a combination. They know what to do. You just take it in because you don't really feel a difference. It's the amalgamation, the entire essence of all the combination of the different frequencies.
Yeah.
Just think what they're doing.
It's like a
They're
healing.
using all the different frequencies of sound that are encoded in each of these tuning forks.
That's awesome.
Each of these frequencies make your body tune itself.
So they're using the certain healing frequencies for certain organs. Because as soon as you said that, I thought about organs. I was thinking, like, it sounds like that could be an organ healing thing, and maybe they used certain,
the sound
tunings.
can get deep.
Right.
You're putting it on the outside of your body. You're not piercing your body with a needle, but you don't have to.
Well, like what you said about water too. Water just travels. You can see the ripple in the water. Yeah.
Exactly. When you drop a pebble in the water, it ripples and it goes, just like a sound wave. And when you hit the tuning fork, those, you don't see them with your naked eye, but all those sound waves are permeating through your body and tuning and bringing back into alignment everything that all the electromagnetics, all the stuff that's being bombarded at us is, that's putting our bodies in disarray. The hours of watching TV, the electromagnetic poison from working on computers. This type of sound therapy can heal you, and I believe, music and writing songs, that's how I'm getting off from behind the YouTube, and that's what my crowdfunding is about. People help sponsor my Patreon page. They're helping us get this album out. They're helping us get some truthful music out that's tuned to a frequency that's it's encoded in there. Just like the song we wrote 3 years before 9/11, and we were ignorant of it when we wrote it. And that's the thing. The artist isn't always aware of these messages that are coming through us through the songs, and they don't have to be. And I think sometimes we wake up and we realize what the songs we write are about, or what the lessons in life that we're learning are about. And sometimes we live our whole life and we don't understand, why these lessons came through us, or why we had to go through this certain obstacle. But it's all for our growth. And, with music, you can share it with other people. So that turns, the growth outward. If you're growing through your music and I'm using an instrument as my meditation to bring, again, that's why you play an instrument. I don't have the tuning forks and I'm not putting them all over my body. But when I sit down and those vibrations are in my lap from my acoustic guitar, or I'm standing in front of my amp and those vibrations are coming into my body, you don't think I'm absorbing that, standing right next to all that volume? You don't think when you go to a concert and you're standing in front of the PA, all those invisible sound waves from that techno music at EDC aren't fucking you up?
Hell yeah.
Those DJs pushing the buttons on their laptops when your body's not even designed to input digital information, and we're all listening to digital information because they got us off tape, they got us off the 2-inch. That's why I'm doing my album.
Books are going digital.
And
I'm doing my album on tape, old school, on 2-inch tape. Most people probably don't even know what that is. Google analog 2-inch tape machine and look what it looks like. The brand of the machine is called Studer, Studer 2-inch tape machine. That's what albums used to be made on, not Pro Tools, not in your computer, on a big fat 2-inch wide tape that had, some of them could fit 16 tracks of different instruments. Some can fit 24. You can even slave two 24-track Studer machines together. And you look at the size of these, are expensive machines. People couldn't afford to, yeah. You can slave these together, and if you have an orchestra and you want 48 separate tracks, so you can have every violin, horn, flute, bass, tuba on its own track, you can do that. All right? We are analog creatures. We are meant to input analog information, and this inputting of the digital information is splintering our souls. It's murdering us from the inside out.
I have to read this to you. It's of course I just Googled the tape player you're describing it. Anybody can do this if you just search for it. It says Israeli composer Joseph Tal at the Electronic Music Studio in Jerusalem, 1965. On the right, a sound synthesizer. On the left, a Studer C37 vacuum to reel tape recorder. So.
Isn't that crazy? The first thing you came across was an Israeli fucking with it.
First thing.
See?
It's on the right side. Anybody can go check it out.
See, people, this is how truth comes out.
He's in between two. He's kind of working two different sides of the little studio he's got here. It's pretty interesting.
And a lot of people, trying to bring digital and analog together. I mean, to me, that's kind of like the transhumanism movement. They did it to music. They totally made music like a machine, like robotic. And they took all the soul, they took all the emotion.
Look at country, look at hip hop.
Not only that, but look at that new dubstep crap. Like, dubstep sounds like machines fucking. Like, it's like the most dark sounding, creepy music half the time. You don't think that shit has got people programmed? When there's a dude up there in a mouse face, like, that's huge, and he's got all this crazy gold, he's got a dark cube behind him, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man.
From the shout box, it says, it's from a member. It says actually to you, Jeff Young. It says, Jeff, the natural overtone series is proof that sonority has ear-pleasing intervals in the vibrations per second. When the math matches, it sounds good. Ear gematria.
Absolutely.
So, and then one more thing he says: strike a note on a piano and hold it. You can hear the natural harmonies and hear it in that notes in the upper registers like shimmering.
Mm-hmm.
Remove the overtones, the note sounds like an old tape recording.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
And that's the thing. I mean, even when you tune a guitar, people who tune a guitar, your teacher you tune by harmonics, and you can do it on the.
That's the best
When
way.
you hear the two strings, you're trying to make the two strings come in tune. You can hear that fibrillation when they're not in tune,
Yeah.
and that's how they want our bodies like that. And our bodies are like a musical instrument. And when the powers that be, all the Tavistock Institute, all the MK Ultra, and MK Ultra, everyone talks about. There are so many different types of mind control. Besides MK Ultra, there are a host of levels of MK Ultra is just one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. They use all this knowledge of frequency, of sound, of, and we have all through
What
time.
we're saying is true. Everybody can be MK Ultra, and they can, do what they, give you the Winter Soldier code at any moment.
Well, that's for sure. If you study the subconscious mind and how much we are all we all soak that in through what we don't even think we're seeing. It's definitely true. I mean, and for sound frequency, yeah.
It looks solid, right? All the solid things. If you read Deepak Chopra's quantum physics, and if
Even
you know
us,
quantum physics,
we're all vibrating.
it's all sound.
Yeah,
Everything's hollow,
it's
man.
a frequency.
The hardest structure is hollow. It just looks solid to us because of how the sound frequencies are arranging themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is sound. Like if sound ceased to exist, there would just be a black void of nothingness.
Yeah.
So
That's what creates all movement and all energy, Yeah, it's crazy.
So if it creates all movement and all energy, that's the movement and the energy we need to change this world.
Yeah.
It's music. So we need to stop taking music out of schools and giving it all to the fake sports players.
Mm-hmm.
You see what they're doing? They're doing the exact opposite of what should be done.
And your voice is an instrument too, and so don't get online and just spew a bunch of negative shit and perpetuate anything like that. We got to start start talking about, Jeff Young is trying to teach people something. He's not. And once you've taught somebody something, then move, I don't know. Go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I don't know what the hell I was trying to go somewhere with that, but I just.
No, it's all a stream of consciousness. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So somebody posted for you in the shout box. Member.
It's funny.
Can you guys?
I asked him about that too.
Ask Jeff Young a bit about 432 hertz and 440 hertz and how he feels about it.
I've researched it a lot and I've talked about it. And you got to understand in music, what people aren't aware is you listen to songs. There's a lot of bands that tune differently anyway. For example, a lot of the heavier bands, Black Sabbath, and sometimes it's just because the men can't sing higher, so they would tune down a half step.
Mm-hmm.
So Jimi Hendrix is an example. The Black Sabbath, where they would tune, and their low note would not be E, it's E flat. Okay.
When it's open, yeah.
So their whole when they play an E chord, now you're hearing E flat, so it sounds a little darker, a little lower. Black Sabbath, a little more devilish. Now Van Halen, they tune to E quarter flat, which is between E and E flat, which is why if you ever tried to figure out a Van Halen song, this is weird. And then there's other circumstances, like, for example, I noticed certain albums from Europe that I would play, and maybe it's because of the way the current makes the tape machines back in the 70s, the Studer tape machine. Maybe they worked at a slightly different speed, or the machines were calibrated slightly different. You hear some albums where you can tell the people are playing in tune, but they've sped the track up a little bit or slowed it down so it's not quite in tune. Like you can tune your guitar with a tuner and you're trying to play along with it, but it's just a little bit out. It's just not quite right. So you got to understand, people, that there's frequencies all across the spectrum. I think this 40-32 thing's a little bit of bullshit, personally, because we're hearing every frequency. All right. It's more about the sequence of notes and how you combine notes. I think it's the combination of notes. And we got to keep in mind, and this is one of the things that Leonard Horowitz talked about when in that book and video that I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse, he talked about Pythagoras and the musical scale and how all these sacred hymns in the church and Bach, and see, Bach, I was born on March 31st, which is the same day Bach was born. So I've been really studying, and keep in mind that the churches back in the day, you got to think, let's rewind. Think of mankind back in Bach's time, okay? And people should go back. A couple weeks ago, I played a beautiful documentary about Bach on a Bach special that really gives you a great framework of perhaps why the elite and powers that be have sought so hard to control the sheeple, because back in the day, they were a bunch of crazy, out of control, psycho motherfuckers, man. They had to be controlled. Think about it. We were just coming out of the ages of superstitions where people believe shit like, leeches, put leeches on the body to cure you, and
Yeah.
cutting limbs and cutting and sacrificing witches at the stake, and just all the superstitions that of the dark ages that we were coming out of. And now we had the churches in Europe, and where because Bach traveled all over Europe. And what were the churches but the indoctrination centers of our time, of the times? They were where there was no TV. Most people couldn't read. Bunch of ignorant, just barely, beyond caveman mentality. So, I mean, in the churches at that time, what Bach was dealing with is he was trying to write music to calm the savages. These people were fucking in church. There was wild animals running through the pews. It was out of control. So this music that they were, Bach was writing, they were trying to, music soothes the savage beast. And then he encoded all the stories of the Bible. It's a brilliant documentary. You should go on Music Without Boundaries, really check it out. So you start to see, okay, you got a wild public. These elites, these sophisticated, richy riches, they wanted to mellow people out. So they're using music to do so. And within the music, their Bible psyops came into play through the sermons, through the lyrics in the songs. I don't know how many people were going to be blown away that are listening by enlightening them to the fact that both the Catholic and the Christian religion are, in fact, religions made up by the Jews as psychological operations just to mind fuck you. Mm-hmm. Just like the fake Holocaust, You got to realize the reason these people have been banished or killed in every country they try to inhabit and take over with their greedy ways, because they're not producers. They're people that exploit other people's talents and make money off other people, so they can sit back and rest and relax.
Yeah, the goy are here to work. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, we're just the goy.
Yeah, anything created by man, that's red flag. And I don't care what religion is, and I'm not trying to offend anybody or anything, but I'm not a sub-segment of God. I believe in a God, but to be like, oh, I'm this kind or this kind, it just
this is the
it always
thing.
seemed weird.
This is the thing about religion. There's a lot of arrogant motherfuckers out there in this world.
They pimp religion. Yeah.
Let's start here. Let's start right here. Men write books, okay? And men are fucking liars.
Correct.
Especially men. Let's just leave women out. Not that they can't lie equally as effectively.
Yeah.
But men are fucking liars. We've already blown out that reality's scripted, everything in the books, all these Einsteins, Newtons, Copernicus, Pythagoras, they're all Freemasons. They've all been perpetuating this same agenda all the way down the line. That's how they've been planning this shit. 33 years out, 50 years out, hundreds of years out. They're manifesting reality against revelations, against the codes that are hidden in the Bible. This goes back to that video that I watched back in 2000. And here I am when we come across, Free to Find Truth and all the other gematria people and the numerology and the people online that are waking up to the fact that everything somehow comes back to numbers. Everything is in the numbers. This is where I come from with religion. We know it's proven. And all you have to do to disprove the Bible and the bullshit is to think about what God and the intent of God and what the concept of unconditional love is.
Oneness.
You know,
Yeah.
a parent, let's just say you're Jeffrey Dahmer's parents, right? Okay. You may not approve of what your kid did. You may not be able to even conceive that a child you brought into the world could do such a thing. But deep down, you can never hate that child, and you will never not love that child, because a parent has unconditional love for his child. Most parents, unless you are a
Right.
soulless zombie, and there are many parents on this plane that are soulless zombies. But let's just appeal to the best in us. All right. So if we're God's children and God is pure unconditional love, my Mr. Miyagi taught me that unconditional love means never. And I mean never, ever, under any circumstances, no matter what that person does. And when you take a vow of marriage, just because you can get the easy way out with a divorce, it means never drawing a line in the sand, never giving up on that person. That's what unconditional love is. That's why the divorce rate's out of control. That's why there's so many unhappy children, because we got a world full of spoiled fucking children who are ignorant from a school system that failed them, because it's a bunch of lies, and books like the Bible that are a bunch of lies and mind control. So you've got children raising children,
Yep.
and they just keep getting more ignorant and ignorant
Well,
as the generations go down.
and so many of our women believe in it. They believe the dream. They believe in the they believe in that whole.
That's Disney MK.
It's that's what kills us. That's what kills the men of our country.
Ride on the white horse.
But
Disney
the truth-
Princess Program.
It's
the
terrible.
truth is in there.
It's terrible.
The truth is, it's like, why?
Well, if there wasn't truth in the Bible, it would have never lasted. You know what I'm saying? If there wasn't truth in there, it would have never lasted. But there's things to control people in there too. There's things to obviously I just think there's a lot of truth in the Bible. Yeah.
There's messages. It's like, why did Disney make Pocahontas and the beautiful song, can you paint with all the colors of the wind?
So they could control you.
Visualize that.
So they could control you though. You know what I'm
What's that?
I think it's so they can control us with Disney. I think Disney's got, a good obvious message for us when we're children, but it's also got the subliminal shit that really takes over also. Like, if you think about every Disney movie, there's some kind of horrific thing that traumatizes you, which makes you susceptible to the mind control. So who knows what all the subliminal.
You notice the parents in Disney movies, either one or both are dead and the kids are orphans.
Right. It's crazy.
Let's get back
Somebody
to
dies.
let's totally debunk the Bible here.
Yeah,
before
go
we
ahead.
jump shark.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so if God is pure unconditional love, right? We've established that. Whatever God is, let's just see God as a big upside down question mark. He doesn't need to be a little man in the sky with a beard and a list of 10 things you can and cannot do. It could be an alien. It could be a team of gods. It could be one. It could be an energy. We don't always have to break it down and make it look like a man. You know how aliens and God and everything just looks pretty much like a man by the time we strip it all down, because that's just about as much imagination as a man can have. But let's just leave God as an upside down question mark for a moment, shall we? And let's just say God is pure unconditional love, and he never draws in the line in the sand. So this whole construct of the 10 commandments and all the shit you can and cannot do and murder and this and that is bullshit. It's mind control to control a bunch of savages like we were talking about, to scare the shit out of people with a price of, if you do this, that, and the other, you're going to go to hell, this scary place where there's a demon with a tail and you're going to burn. I mean, but God loves you. But God loves you. But he loves you. He loves you. And he needs money,
That's why.
That's how you debunk the Bible, because no matter what you do, God would still let you into heaven because he's unconditional
It's
love,
exactly
man.
what I
And he
think.
never draws a line in the sand. He's never going to divorce you. He's never going to send you to
Why the
hell.
fuck would he be
He's
mad at you?
never
Why would he be mad at you?
going.
If you're the all
You know why
creating,
those
all
things
knowing
why
God,
those
why would
things
you
are
be angry at someone who doesn't
Oh,
believe in
good
you?
question. Because I haven't understood the Jesus Christ thing as like, oh, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Well, from what I take from the Bible, because I think it's encryption. That's what it is. The
Yeah,
Bible's encryption.
Exactly.
But what I take from it is that there is a God that will love me
it's within you.
forever. That why would I need a savior when He is always there, always has been there? You know what I mean? So
I think
So
Christ is our consciousness. I think that's the ultimate thing, is that Christ is our consciousness. When we become saved and we accept Christ into our heart, it means that we accept the consciousness of, loving thy neighbor, following the 10 commandments, you know what I'm saying? Like actually living with goodness in your heart. That's all it is. I mean, like it's not about literal shit. There was no man named Jesus who walked. It's about the sun. It's about the appreciation of the world, nature around you. That's what I believe.
it's about heaven on earth.
I believe it's in your mind. It's Christ consciousness. If we all operate as
the
our,
Bible is a book
you will
of
be saved. You're
fables.
saved if
The
you believe it.
Bible
Yeah.
is a book of fables and
Yeah.
analogies. It's a book of fables, just like Aesop's fables
Right.
and the tortoise and the hare is this hidden story that tells you how the sun and move around the earth. The
Mm-hmm.
hare is the sun, and it's all cocky in the beginning in the summer, and it's moving fast.
Mm-hmm.
And the turtle is the moon. It's all slow, can't catch the cocky rabbit, but by the time the winter comes and the eclipse, it catches it. You get it? They hid the shit. It's all fables.
Yep.
Doesn't mean it really happened. And even the Freemasons who made up the Bible would come back today and laugh. You people are taking this stuff seriously?
Yeah. It's
These analogies, these fables, you're taking this seriously and you think the ark really happened? So
and
how'd all these animals from all over the world all assemble in one place? Where'd they shit? What'd they eat? Why didn't they fight?
Right, and what's wild is the Talmud. The Talmud makes fun of. It says that if you sit down with a goy and have dinner with, I don't know the exact quote. I wish I could pull it up, but it's something about if you have a goy at your table to eat with you, it is no better than sitting at the table with a dog. And it said something about for these heathens are something about star worshippers. They call us like, you know because we don't even understand what we're worshiping is what they were trying to infer in the Talmud. I wish I had the verse right in front of me, but it's pretty wild, man. I mean, it's just like what we have to understand is that we hold the power, and if we have that Christ consciousness and know that we can operate in some kind of truth and some kind of togetherness, then that's the answer right there for everybody, and we can be saved.
Most of the people know, you know, you want to throw the Bible up and say it's real, then you go find a whale, go live in his belly for a week, and come back and get back to us on that.
Right?
Symbols,
Yeah,
symbols and code.
it's got so much.
They hid codes in the Bible. That the Bible is twofold. Just like movies and predictive programming in Hollywood, on the surface,
That's
the
the first
mind
movie.
control part of the Bible is there to control the sheep. Underneath, hidden in the codes of the Bible, is the tools and the numbers and the codes that the Freemasons have used to manifest revelations before our very eyes.
They should have
Let me
they
just
they should
recommend
have taught us how to read it for good. I mean, they should have.
exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Let me recommend a book.
That
It's
pisses
called
me off.
Number in Scripture. It's by E.W. Bullinger. Number in Scripture. This book, for the gematria listeners out there, if you like to decode, like to research,
I think they
crack open
stole
the
the. I
Bible
think I think the
at
Jews
night.
stole the Bible from our people too. Before go ahead, Aaron. I just wanted to say that. I just think that it got. I
It's
think this was someone else's
you know,
text.
the way this book describes it, and kind of it opened my eyes to the encryption that's hidden within the Bible. The way this book describes the Bible as each word is exactly where it should be, as many times as it should be. Like in the Old Testament, it says
Big time.
that 7 is referenced 287 times, um, which is also 7 times 41, and 41 being the 13th prime. And when you actually type, yeah, see, well, that's a whole. I don't want to go into the 216 because I can do that real easy, but we'll do that another time. But the
And this
website,
is
you can read this all online. It's actually biblebelievers.org.au. It's right there. It's free. I would say definitely click through some things because it's very interesting.
It's
and
just,
I just the biggest mystery for me, you know, just in the world at large, and especially in the truth community where the people are purportedly and supposedly supposed to be more awake. What is so hard for you people to get the separation and understand that there can be a creator? Who cares what you call it? God, Buddha, whatever.
Mhm.
Upside down question mark. There's a creator, a team of creators, some kind of intent or energetic force that manifested all of this reality, of all of this matrix, this hologram existence, whatever we're in this earth school. How can you not just reconcile the concept that that can exist and the Bible can still be a man-made book of lies with some partial truths, just like they put in every movie, just like they put in every bit of disinfo that they put out there? I mean, it's just like same shit, different day, different drama. And the Bible, again,
it,
churches were the indoctrination centers of the time because people couldn't read, most of them, and there was no TV or radio or any other way to brainwash the sheep who were out of control, fucking in church, just
just
crazy, stealing, thieving,
Priests
partying all the
priests were
time.
selling chips of wood,
and,
saying it
and
was
bottom
the
line,
cross itself.
like no matter what you believe, unless you believe that God actually came down and spoke to man, then the Bible was written by men. Therefore, unless you put every bit of faith, 100% faith into men, and instead of the Creator, then you're already living in a falsehood. So I think that's kind of the trick of the Bible, is that
This is the thing.
that's
This is another. You want to debunk the Bible a second time? Everything in life boils down to two things: love or fear. There is nothing more, and God is pure love,
agreed.
and He would never rule by fear. He would never instill fear, and He would never need to manipulate or control you or me or anyone into doing anything by fear.
Right. Well, what I don't, the only
It's
reason
Love doesn't
it's
work
actually
with
James
fear. They don't
1:13.
use fear.
It
one
says, "Let no man say when he is tempted,
I
I am of
fear,
God,
the only
for
thing,
God cannot be tempted with evil,
here's
neither tempteth he any man."
here's the difference. Here's the best thing I can say about that statement right there, is that fear is this: I fear making a child cry. So if you have a good soul, then of course you shouldn't fear God, because you shouldn't fear anything that makes you feel bad. I feel bad if I'm doing wrong, right? So that's kind of a fear for me. I fear doing wrong. I fear somebody being upset with me that I care about. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, I don't know. I feel like that's such a tricky thing, because I've heard people talk about that, but
Well, we see, you
Duality.
can see men rule by fear.
it's Christ
God,
consciousness,
God doesn't rule fear, man. God doesn't do fear. You
Correct.
don't need it. He's beyond that. Once you're in pure love, there's no
Exactly.
need for that shit,
I
man.
agree.
Men rule by fear. So you look at the Bible, how much fear-based bullshit's built in there to scare you,
A lot,
to
yeah.
scare you
Right?
into submission,
Exactly, yeah.
to scare you into giving them their money every Sunday in church.
But that's why I say when people talk about fearing God, I think that's so. I think it's wrong. Also, you shouldn't fear God. God is everything that's good. God is everything that created you. So what you fear is the opposite of God. You fear the if you didn't have everything, but you do. So it's like, what are you worried about? I mean, I don't know. I think, yeah, you're right. It just shows that fear-based consciousness is a lot of what religion is, and it's keeping people in line and in a box.
These huge mega churches,
Yeah.
if what they
And
were preaching
again,
was actually true, you know, I mean,
you
it's
understand at the
wow.
time back then why they did it. The people were out of control. They were savages, man. There was no education. Everything was so primitive. Think how far we've evolved.
Yeah.
All right. But this Bible and this methodology, it worked then, and they just exploited it and kept on using it. And then flash forward to the televangelists on TV.
Now we're scared to say
How
fuck
many
it.
people ever fell for that? Who ever turned on the TV and was dumb enough to fall for that? But yet, how many old people and people all over were sending hundreds and thousands of dollars to Pat Robertson and Jimmy Swaggart?
So
And
they
all
got bigger
these
and better at it.
charlatans.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, look how many people show up for TD Jakes every Sunday. I mean, what if I told you before, Jeff? What if every single one of those persons brought like a can of food or like a 2x4 hammer, nails, like one piece of supplies each? Like, what the hell could they build like every Sunday
Yeah, that's crazy.
instead of just sitting there listening in their Sunday best clothes?
Exactly. Churches are people go to church to be social. They're half of them ain't even listening to what the cat says. They want to trot out the ladies want to trot out their outfits so all the other ladies can stare at them. They want to trot their family out and act like they got the perfect family.
It's
We're all
disgusting.
Christians here, and none of us are sinners, and they all go home and sin as soon as they get home.
It's disgusting. And, I thought whenever we created All for Truth that there would be 30,000 people who showed up to join or, at least come together. And I thought we would be able to do something like come all together and see what we could create if we all brought our resources together and all that. But, that didn't.
There's too much manipulation.
There's too much.
People are already too
Exactly.
mind fucked to come together. They don't want to come together because this world thrives on
So
separatism.
how many of us will? Because I think about if
I
there's
don't think there's as many of us as we think.
if there was 50 of us, right? If there was 50 of us, right, at any given time who were willing to move to a warm climate where we could, sustain, grow food, raise our families together, and live where we know we all care about each other. And we could sign some kind of contract together where it's do no harm to others or else be kicked out or whatever we have to do to make sure we're protected with our families. But you know what I'm saying? We need to make this thing happen, man, because that's the only way in my mind is it once we all buy a piece of land and actually start protecting the little that we have, whether we start with, a square mile, a square acre, whatever we fucking start with, we gotta start with something, right? And lead by example. And I think that's what we've been talking about a lot, is just trying to, show that we can do it. I mean, Jeff Young's doing it. I mean, he's not working with the man. He's out speaking against the man. This guy's got a chance to be in a major rock group, touring around, trying to, whore his way around the country, doing everything, but he's doing it for good. Like, he's playing music for good. He's not just out there with the biggest band he could be with just because he's a shredder on guitar. He wants to use his knowledge to see other towns. And, I've spoken to this man. He's a real dude, and so definitely support him.
Drag about doing it this way.
Yeah.
And I need your support, the drag of doing it this way.
I'm getting ready to make a donation when we hang up. So, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
We're swimming against the stream. If you're a truth seeker and if you're awake, but I'm going to give you a little secret, so there's some good news.
It's the shit.
Kansas, hang with me.
Yeah.
We're all salmon swimming upstream. I can't play the game and I can't sell out. I could go get a deal, but as soon as I get a deal, I got a management deal after Megadeth with Diamond Dave Management. That's David Lee Roth managers. They manage Van Halen, and they broke the Black Crowes, okay? I gave them my first demo, and they took it to radio, and they said it's the best shit they heard in 10 years. The next demo started with a song called Johnny Big Time, which is about a record company executive or any person in Hollywood taking advantage of up-and-coming starlet or a musician like me and exploiting them and living off their money. Do you think they like that song? They didn't like that song so much anymore. So you're not going to get a label to put an album out of lyrics where I'm writing a song. One of the new songs on my vocal album is called Don't Let 'Em Fool You, okay? And the first line says, I see they lie through their teeth with a serpent's tongue. Okay, and I'm talking about the powers that be. So you can imagine where the rest of the song's going to go. And do you think they're going to give me a deal so I can let all the rest of the world know what I know? No, they're not. They're going to try to make it as hard for me as possible. They're going to ban my shit on Facebook. They're going to hide my radio show in the news feed. They're going to make sure my YouTube videos don't show up so you can't see them.
They'll promote 2 3 artists that are they feel are similar to you, and
But then they're gonna put fucking Nicki Minaj's video right up there, and Jay-Z and all their Illuminati shit with the same 4 notes repeating for the whole damn song. The song goes nowhere because they want you hypnotized. That's why the songs never go anywhere. Because they don't want you to go anywhere. They want you stuck. So the way for me, I gotta
speak on that, Joe.
Go.
Because I'll tell you right now, from what I know about you, it sounds like the quality that why they wouldn't want to sign you is the exact opposite of what you're going to tell me like it is, and I can appreciate. That's my favorite quality in somebody, because when manipulation starts to come in, you know what I mean. Even if we're in disagreement, like, you just keep tell it like it is, and I'm going to tell you like it is, tell it like it is, and that's how you get to the bottom of shit. So it sounds like that's why they didn't want to sign you, or they didn't want you to put your message out there because it was against theirs. But keep preaching it, man.
Yeah. So, but to get this music out there, so the problem is it just takes longer. I recorded the basic tracks to this album and the song "Don't Let 'Em Fool You" 2 Januaries ago. And it's the funds. It's what happened with our family business and the 300,000 I lost. The album would already be out if what happened with our family and that money in my bank account, so to speak, hadn't disappeared. Not only would my vocal album be out, my instrumental out with 6 more songs just as good or better than Monsoon, and who knows where I would be, and I could be out there waking people up. But somehow, whether it's just the dark forces of the universe fighting against me, it's just, it makes it harder. So you're a salmon swimming upstream. So you need crowdfunding. You need the support of people that care and want to help you get your message out there. You know what I'm saying? Because they want this higher frequency music out there. Bob Marley's out there. You can go back and listen to his tunes, and there's a few others, but like even the song "Imagine," doesn't anyone stop and think that's a total Illuminati written New World Order song? He's telling you, imagine there's no heaven. That's a total Luciferian song. Imagine. You all think that song's so fucking great, man. Lenin was shilling for the New World Order in that song. Listen to it. There's no reconciliation in that tune.
And we need diversity, we need it's not that we need borders or anything like that. Some of the song I agree with, but I like that you said that, because we need
well, they hide it in there. Of course, when you listen to it, they trick you to think it's about that.
Right.
They trick you to think the Bible is about this.
Exactly.
They trick you to think this movie is about that.
Yep.
They trick you to think The Shining is about that. But Stanley Kubrick really hit his confession of hoaxing the moon landing in The Shining. Eyes wide shut.
That's why.
Who's calling these directors? Who's calling these fucking creepy directors geniuses? You, me, Roman Polanski, that piece of shit pedophile, Stanley Kubrick, that fuckwad. We're not calling these people geniuses. Eyes Wide Shut, as far as I know, the public thought that was a piece of shit.
Right.
Who's calling them geniuses?
It's weird.
Other Zionist Jews in Hollywood are calling them geniuses. That's who's giving them.
And the sheep listen to it. The sheep are the ones watching those music awards, and
but they don't know.
It's
they
disgusting.
Don't know what the award is for.
Right.
It's not because the music is good or the movie is good. They're giving Stanley Kubrick that award because he's the best at hiding the predictive programming in his movies.
Yeah.
He's the best at mind fucking you in his movies.
Yeah.
The Zionists love that shit, because what you got to understand about Luciferians and about Satanism is, if you study Crowley, you understand that why all this pedophilia is because they believe that the closest you can get to Satan is fucking a little boy up the ass. Now, they also thrive, when they human sacrifice a baby or an adult, the body takes on a different, when that fear, we're talking about love and fear, they want to sacrifice you when you have that fear, because they believe there's something in the component of your blood and the energetic makeup that changes in that moment, that when they drink that blood, it's more powerful and gives them more eternal youth or whatever power they're seeking in that human sacrifice. Now, why do they always give the Academy to these tear-jerking movies and these performances that make you cry? They love that shit. When they get you to cry on their fake false flag stories over their fake victims and these crisis actors, and they get you that feeling like you just got whacked in the belly with a baseball bat, or 9/11 when everyone's crying and oh my God,
Yeah.
that's the energy that Satanists feed upon. And the more you give them that energy, the more they're going to feed it.
Yeah.
And the way to bring this shit down, and I'm going to give you the secret to bring it down. We shut down the fucking sports. You leave it. You turn off the pay-per-views. You turn off the fucking TVs.
You're breaking up, Jeff.
Man,
Yeah, we're
sitting
losing
on
you,
your
Jeff.
fucking couch,
There we go.
drinking beers, ignoring your wife and kids every fucking night, every Monday, every Sunday. Fuck you, bunch of losers, man. Get up off the couch, turn off the fucking TV, and go out and do something with your family. Do something with your kids. Plant a garden, grow some food that's not GMO. Stop feeding your kids McDonald's and Burger King and going to the grocery store and shopping in the box and can aisles and feeding your kids poison. You murdering parents, you out there.
And what's sad?
Right?
What's sad is that
Boycott we could leave every stadium empty. Stop buying your fucking fake mixed martial arts tickets, your bullshit pay-per-view. Leave the stadiums empty.
every stadium could be filled with a vegetable garden. Every lighting fixture that's in a stadium could be filled with. I've thought about this. It could be filled with a light fixture that has things that could grow an amazing amount of vegetables in it. And you could have your community come in there. All your homeless people could eat for the rest of their lives. And places that are warm, they could grow food in places like that. And it could be an enclosed area where pests couldn't get to it. Not pests, but deer and rabbits. Like that's your biggest problem when growing a garden.
You women, let's get on the women. Let's not just get on you women. Some of you are the most superficial of all. And
Big time.
there's less women truth seekers than anyone because you're all wrapped up in the Desperate Housewives of Orange County and New York and your makeup and your Cosmo bullshit.
It's sad.
Disney princess programming. And your makeup makes you all look like a bunch of fucking clowns. Okay?
Yeah.
You need to strip that shit off. Fuck your fashion. Fuck your fake nails.
Yeah.
Fuck your color in your hair and all this jewelry. Stop buying jewelry from the Jews, okay?
Yeah.
And you people need to look into all the diamond shit and start figuring out why they keep referring to the firmament every time you're trying to buy jewelry and diamonds. And maybe you could put something together about the shape of the earth, even when you're buying your fake jewelry.
Yeah,
Go online.
I want everybody to listen
You won't
to.
find any diamonds. You won't find any diamonds that are expensive that don't reference the firmament. All right. Now,
Wow.
and I'm not trying to be harsh, but when you're paying thousands of dollars for shoes and handbags and clothes just so you can go to church and impress the other biddies at church, fuck you, man.
I want.
You're just the most pathetic excuse. And I'm sorry to get a little bit radical,
Yeah.
but this is what it's going to take to wake up. You people got to stop being so fucking materialistic, so superficial,
Yeah.
so shallow, and so afraid of the truth, man. Because you got Trump as the president, and that ain't a good sign for the things to come the rest of this year and beyond. Because if you don't get it, we're living in a full-blown reality show, and the powers that be gave you a mirror of yourselves. They gave you a pussy-grabbing, pompous, arrogant, judgmental, judging women, judging minorities, judging handicaps, because he's just like all you out there.
It's crazy.
It's a reflection of America. They just gave you a mirror yourself. So when are you going to wake up? When are you going to shut down the fake sports? When are you going to stop buying the bullshit music? When are you going to stop watching the bullshit movies, buying all the bullshit stuff that the women prop up? Stop supporting the Disney movies and brainwashing your kids. All these things. Stop paying taxes this year. Stop being a fucking pussy and let these little Zionist Jews push you around, man. They cannot push us around. There's too many of us. We don't need a police force. We don't need an army. We don't need a military state anywhere. There's no terrorists. There's no ISIS. Go outside. It's fucking crickets, man. You're living in a fake construct. The only
I
terrorists
think we're losing.
are the powers that shouldn't be faking you all out, people. There's
Wait.
no big race war other
And
than the one that George Soros sends into Ferguson, because left to our own devices, just like I said at the beginning of the show, when I was in Spain, you know what the black people are doing in their community? You know what the Asians are doing in their community? You know what the whites are doing in their community? You know what the Muslims are doing in their community? They're all laughing with their friends, making love to each other, listening to music, getting high, getting drunk, eating food.
just like
They're
all of
trying
just
to
like all of
fucking
us do.
live, man.
That's all any of us
None of
do.
us are out there being prejudiced against each
Hell
other,
no.
except the brainwashed few.
On the news.
Yeah, there's a brainwashed few that maybe if you're in an interracial relationship, like my friends in Colorado that I just visited, and I've been in an interracial relationship, I didn't have any problems because we were in Hollywood, and Hollywood's crazy, so they didn't look at us twice. But these people are in Colorado, and they get stuff thrown at them. They get people saying hateful stuff. Yeah, because they're brainwashed by what they see on TV, and they think there's this giant conflict amongst the races, but there's not, man. Brothers,
And that's what they're trying to
sisters,
perpetuate
Muslims,
in the media
everyone out there
constantly.
listening, we are all in this together.
For
and
sure.
Our common enemy is Zionism. The USA is sending 10.4 million every day to Israel. Why are we sending 10.4 million every single day for the next 10 years and beyond to Israel? Why do we have our first Jesuit pope? Why do we have our first Jesuit president? You need to start asking yourself these questions and stop being caught up. Like, remember that scene Cypher in The Matrix when he's eating the steak? And he says, I know this steak is bullshit. I know it's not even real, but it tastes so fucking good, I don't care.
Right.
And that's the problem with most of y'all out there in radio land, that the steak tastes so fucking good,
Right.
you just don't care, and you're not going to care till your power gets cut or the UN's coming down your street.
Well, the problem, and we have all that for ourselves, man.
Every city, every false flag, every drill that they're playing off as real in the media on TV.
Right. And the problem is,
just a big test for martial law.
the problem is we all have it right here at our grasp still. If we all say right now, there's still enough of us, and I think that's why they've been hitting us so hard for the last 50 years. You look back and you know how much the programming has been ramped up in the last 50 years with technology and with media, with every little piece of it has been ramped up just tenfold almost every 10 years. It seems like it just keeps getting worse and worse.
They're getting ready for epic depopulation, man. That's why they're ramping it up.
That's what I'm saying. I think some shit is really, it's gonna get bad soon if we don't stand up.
People,
Yeah.
you all are missing the transhuman agenda and the tranny agenda because you're not familiar with how many people in Hollywood are trannies.
Stupid.
They got you lusting after men that are trannies. Like, I don't want to get into it. We could do a whole show on the
We need to.
sexual agenda, but just start with Tiny Tim, fast forward to RuPaul, then fast forward to Bruce Jenner, and you can't see a TV show anymore that doesn't have transhumanism or a tranny. And I got banned from Facebook when you go watch that censored video because I merely mentioned on a metal page that tranny from Rocky Horror Picture Show, Lauren Cox, who's an out tranny, she's not even a Decepticon kind of tranny, she neglected to introduce Metallica, right? And they were saying this actress neglected to introduce Metallica. She didn't neglect shit. That's a psychological operation by gay Hollywood who fucking hates metal. They hate metal.
They like fucking in the ass too.
They hate the macho. They hate the machismo of these metal dudes. That's why Metal used to be big on
Look at
TV.
Pantera. Somebody go back and watch an old VHS tape of fucking Pantera and watch these dudes fucking drinking whiskey, having fun. Like, I'm not saying go out and drink whiskey, you know, I know drinking alcohol is bad, but these guys were having a good fucking time. They said fuck authority. They would, if there was a bodyguard giving them a hard time at a club, you know, these guys did not give a shit. Like, you know,
They were playing cool music.
what happened to punk rock, man? Like, all that, yeah.
Whether it's Pantera, it doesn't have to be even metal, dude. There's
Well, yeah.
killer classical music.
It just made me
There's
think of
killer
them,
related
like, man.
to nothing. There's killer jazz musicians.
Old
All the
skate
best
videos, man,
musicians
you know?
on this earth. All the best musicians on this planet. All the best songs you people have never heard of.
It's
You've
crazy.
never heard the best songs. You've never heard the best musicians.
I know I
'Cause
haven't.
It's not. It ain't in the agenda. It ain't in the master plan. You know, whether we ain't in the club. All us musicians who are doing the higher consciousness shit, we're not invited to the party because we don't serve this agenda. So you look, they're just flat out, and because of the gematria, we're basically in 1984. This is the year of the beast. All the gematria is there. We've done the gematria on Trump. We've done the gematria on all the powers that be. We know where we are. This is the Luciferian pagan agenda coming out of the closet, man. This is what's always run the world. It's just been under the carpet, and now they don't give a fuck anymore because the world's so far gone and the zombies are so asleep that most of them don't even notice what's happening, and they're not going to notice till they're dead.
Yeah.
By whatever means it's going to happen. Pandemic, false flag, whatever they're going to do, but they're going towards something. They're moving towards something according to their plan. That's what we're all trying to do in the truth-seeking community, is get ahead of their game to figure out what they're doing, so we can head them off. But think about it. We don't need to head them off. We don't need to know what they're doing. We don't need to care. We need to shut down the stadiums. We need to turn off the pay-per-view sports. We need to stop buying the bullshit music, the makeup, the wardrobe. The fashion industry needs to shut down. It's one of the most unhealthy, gay, sick industries out there. The fashion industry needs to die. Kill it. Kill it, people.
Yeah, I mean, look at what people spend on clothes. I mean, think about the fact that
Bunch of clowns and the shit you're wearing. All the tennis shoes. I stopped buying tennis shoes once they started looking like space boots.
dude,
All people killing each other in poor neighborhoods over tennis shoes that look like hideous space boots.
I used to love skateboarding shoes, and the last time I went to a skate shop to buy skate shoes, I was gonna buy some nice skate, Vans or something like that. I went in there. Every shoe in this place was a fluorescent color, and it had 12 colors on it. I was like, what happened to some normal looking, tennis shoes, where I could get a brown pair of shoes with what the fuck?
The powers that be do. They sit around. Louis Vuitton did. Google
It's
Louis
programming.
Vuitton handbags. Louis Vuitton handbags. Do you know what they were? They were an ugly shit brown handbag with an L and a V on it. It's a hideous handbag.
Right.
It's not attractive. And just because they told you women it was expensive and Louis Vuitton's some kind of a fucking brand.
Exactly.
How much were those Louis Vuitton handbags? And you women are walking around carrying a bag that looks like it's shit brown.
They're the problem.
Knapsack.
Yeah,
Hideous.
they're the problem.
It's not stylish. It's not beautiful. It's not creative. At this point, they're just seeing what stupid music will these people buy? How fake can we make the sports and they won't see it? How fake can we make the false flags and they won't notice? You got Angel Collin, and his Dr. Lou at the false flag gay psyop, saying he's shot in the hand with a submachine gun, and the next day he's waving both hands around, not a wound anywhere, a Band-Aid, nothing, not a scab, not a stitch. The next thing they're going to do to you people, they're going to trot out a crisis actor. He's going to lift up his shirt and said he was blown away, with a Uzi in the heart. There's not going to be a wound there. He's going to walk away, and you're going to believe it. I mean, people aren't paying attention because the average attention span's 8 seconds long. And everyone's already turned the show off, and they're back watching fake sports and the Desperate Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It's like when you show someone tangible evidence, read this paper, read this paper. This actually happened this way. Here's all the facts. They read it like, that's crazy, and then just
I
kind of
was
like
telling
put
someone
it
in,
down, go back to programming.
Colorado, I started like they were even awake, like they started preaching truth, but they were talking about Trump and Clinton. I was saying, as long as you're talking about Trump or Clinton, you're caught up in the psyop. You're looking over here at the wrong hand. And
Absolutely.
so I started telling this person truth, and they were sitting 3 feet away from me. The truth made them so uncomfortable, they actually recoiled and had to get up out of their chair and storm across the room away from me as they're yelling at me, furious
Truth
at truth.
does that.
I'm just saying, get as furious as you want, run away to the other side of the room if you want, but you ain't going to run away from this as a fact, Jack.
Yeah.
What I'm telling you is the fact. Because she was going, oh, I think about 50% of what you're saying is true. And I said, babe, 100% of what I'm telling you is true, or I wouldn't be losing my breath on you. And she just didn't, she couldn't comprehend because the truth was just so much for her to take. And I get it. But, again, too fucking bad, man, because it's all around you and your world's closing in on you. And it's critical mass right now, not yesterday, not when Bush or Obama was president, but right now when the pussy grabber's your president. It's tranny fucking wife and it's tranny fucking kids. And you're too blind to see that shit.
Yeah, and I mean, regardless of if you think there's trannies out here right under your nose, I mean, I think it's something that's so hard for people to believe, but I've looked into it, and
Well, even if you don't get that it's a tranny,
the body
you
portions,
see grabbing his daughter and on Howard
oh
Stern
yeah,
saying he wants to fuck his daughter.
it's the
and
most
he's more
bizarre
attracted to
thing.
his daughter than his own wife.
Yeah,
That guy is a pedophile.
right.
You got a president who's a pedophile. He already has cases that have been buried.
And Crowley
Forever.
talks about the sex magic. He talks about, I mean, if you've heard anybody talk about the satanic mind control and trauma-based mind control and all that, it's all through, getting them when they're young, sexual perversion. It's confusing who they are through, it's like a chaos magic. Crowley wrote a lot about it, and I mean, there's been whistleblowers. What's that lady's name? And then the guy from the Free Your Mind conference, Jay. I can't remember his last name right now, but there's been
I'm looking at your screen.
Catherine O'Brien. That's a man right there, Laverne Cox. And this is how they do it too with their names. This is a transgender person, Laverne Cox. You can put it up. I'm gonna post this on YouTube later so I can show all my screen shares I've been doing.
I got banned for all I said. I didn't cuss. I didn't insult her. Again, I don't have anything against transsexuals at all.
Because you're speaking truth, Jeff.
At all.
Well, they don't.
I have something against deception. And
Me
when
too.
they put trannies in front of us and they lie like Sandra Bullock, I always knew that chin even before.
Oh
I
my
saw it.
God.
That chin on Sandra.
Dude.
They even put it right in her name, people. Don't you get it? Go
Right.
back and look at the
Bullocks.
Sex Pistols record. Never mind the Bullocks.
Yeah, dude.
Bullocks
The
is
fuck?
English UK slang, punk rock slang for balls.
Oh my
Okay?
God.
That bitch has balls,
Dude.
man. Sandra Bullock, which explains her weird relationship past and why you got that Jesse creep doing the devil horns with Trump, right? That's a fake relationship. All these Hollywood relationships are fake and staged.
Mm-hmm.
Half these chicks are trannies, and they're putting the actors with them to shame the actor, just like they make all the actors dress in drag, from Tootsie to Will Smith in Wild Wild West. It's just a whole sick agenda in Hollywood. And, I lived in it for 20 years and I was oblivious, but that's because I was a guitar player monk hiding in my bedroom, and I feel kind of stupid looking back all these years and being oblivious, because if I was awake and in Hollywood, imagine what I could have learned if I was really looking and snooping around instead of just walking around like a zombie, not knowing what was around me,
Mm-hmm.
But you just got to understand these, you got.
Well, it's becoming insane.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
And the thing I got banned with on Facebook was it was just a story that said Laverne
Cox.
She apologized for forgetting to introduce Metallica,
Yeah.
but she didn't forget to. It was scripted that way to punk Metallica, just like when they punked Metallica when they gave Jethro Tull the Grammy, just like they punked Megadeth this year when they finally gave him the Grammy for Dystopia, which you can go back and look at that album cover and see what that predictive programming is going to tell you. And they give the award to Megadeth. It's what, 3 p.m. There's no one even in the theater yet. And the Grammy band plays Metallica's Master of Puppets as Megadeth's walking down the aisle, which anyone who knows the story, Mustaine was fired from Metallica. So that's kind of like rubbing salt in the wound to do that. So the whole point is when they had that tranny introduce Metallica, you know, Lady Gaga was sitting in with Metallica on their brand new song from their brand new album, and she was their guest. And the way any other person in a normal circumstance, and it's on the teleprompter, it's scripted, would say, this is Metallica with their new song and their guest, Lady Gaga, and they would have done it. But that's how gay Hollywood punks metal. They introduced Gaga and didn't even mention Metallica or their song or their new album. And then as soon as James Hetfield started to sing, what did they do? They kicked it up one notch higher and cut his fucking mic and embarrassed him. So that band, after all these years, and they finally get on the Grammys, you know, he leaves the stage just totally shamed that his verses and his vocals, you know, never went over live TV.
Damn.
And it's totally, it wasn't an error, because now after the fact you can go online and watch the video with his vocals perfectly intact, which proves to you it was getting to the mixing board just fine.
And it's a Freemason ritual too, of humiliation, you know.
From the stage, see, musicians don't stop to think about, non-musicians don't stop to think. If James Hetfield vocal was cut from the stage and it was a malfunction, a lot of people think the cord was unplugged or one of the dancers kicked a plug. No. If that would have been the case, his vocal wouldn't have got to tape, wouldn't have got to the mixing board, and you couldn't go online and listen to the whole performance. That was punking. Is what you have to understand, and I guess this is a good way to bring it to a close, or if you guys got any other questions, but this is how you got to look at it. Let's start here. Everyone loves to watch those celebrity roasts, those Hollywood celebrity roasts.
Oh, hang on. If it's your final thought, wait till the audio comes back.
He's good.
The Rob Lowe one was a great. That was a great celebrity roast, and we all love to sit back and watch the stars. And isn't it amazing how they all get up on the stage and just burn the fuck out of each other, one after the other, just burning that guest. I mean, if you watch the Pamela Anderson thing, the thing they said about that woman was just horrifying. And Tommy Lee, her ex-husband, gets up there, the father of her children, and shames her and says the horrific things he says about her. Mm-hmm. These are all Freemasons. This is how they treat each other.
It's the humiliation. Yeah.
This goes back to the humiliation rituals at Harvard, at the sororities. It carries over to Hollywood. It carries over to the celebrity roast. It carries over to the Jimmy Kimmel show, which broadcasts from an old Freemason theater in Hollywood across from Mann's Chinese. That's why his stage is a checkerboard floor. That's why they keep punking people every time they go on that show.
Another big part of it is they want you to be comfortable with talking about your dirty secrets. They want you to be, okay with being, I think that's what a part of that roast is. Like, it's part of just talking about the unheard of and the, they want to shock people. I think,
Remember the show Punked?
Yeah.
It's very similar to the celebrity roast. Remember when they had Justin Timberlake on his lawn crying because they were taking all his shit? They think that shit's funny. And that moment when Justin's crying, that's what I was talking about, that crying.
You're enjoying someone's pain.
That in the movies, and they can get a whole audience around the world crying like that in a movie. Or when they can get everyone tuned into the Super Bowl and they do that satanic ritual at halftime. Think of the power of that. Yeah. That's what we're talking about here. They manifest this shit. So now let's pull back from a celebrity roast or a TV show Punked. Let's pull back from the tree to look at the forest and see that this is what the Freemasons are doing to each and every one of us on the daily through the television box, which was developed as a weapon of mind control to mind control the sheeple. So they are celebrity roasting us and punking us on the daily with a scripted reality, and they're sitting back laughing their motherfucking asses off because you're all bought into it hook, line, and sinker, and you can't see through the lies, even though they're just so fake, so obvious. Like I had a guy, I promoted the show, and I was promoting something about scripted in the 77s about 9/11 and how many 77s are tied into Flight 77. And he went in and he was talking about, and I used the meme about imagine if everyone got as, you know, enthusiastic about everything we're talking about tonight as they do about a fake sports game and if their team win or loses. And someone went in my thread and said, I think about, 60% of it's scripted and they leave the rest like wrestling. I'm like, dude, it's scripted down to the stat line. And all the roads lead to Vegas, and they ain't messing around because they're going to make your money. They're going to take it from your taxes. They're going to get you to gamble it away. They're going to tax you to get a driver's license. They're going to charge you to vote. They're going to charge you for college. They're going to make you pay for water.
Right. Anytime you get a license, you're getting a permission. It's the same thing.
All right.
It's crazy.
People, again, that Clint Eastwood meme. It's a planet full of pussies, afraid to stand up, afraid to speak out truth because your family and friends might judge you. Yeah. Musicians afraid to speak. You know how many fans I lost speaking truth? But who cares? They're not smart enough to comprehend my lyrics or this music and this higher frequency I'm encoding. It's not going to resonate because they'd rather go watch Rob Zombie or Beyonce or some low frequency shit, or go to EDC and trip out on ecstasy.
Yeah.
They don't want to be awake.
Right.
What, are they not going to buy my albums?
Yeah.
Can you give me a rim shot on that one?
Doo-doo.
No one's buying albums. So what am I going to lose? What I lost was a bunch of dumb fans that don't know shit. You know what I gained? A ton of smart people. And once you tune your frequency to truth, everyone that's awake, and it may be less people, but it's people you'd want to be around at least. I don't want to go to a party. I don't want to go to a party.
Hell no.
I never went to bars. People wonder why I'm 55 and look so young. I just turned 55 March 31st. And like Jeff, you didn't know I was 50. It's because I didn't go to bars. I didn't drink. No. Bob Marley told you people, alcohol is the destruction of a nation, of a civilization, and herb is the salvation. And the reason why they kept the herb away from y'all is because, one, the Rockefellers wanted you addicted to oil because they needed you to buy their gas and their oil, even though you could run cars on water, and they're flying planes on water and tricking you that they're chemtrails, so you don't figure out it's fucking water.
And right.
Flying the planes on.
And back to you women, get that makeup off your face.
They're flying planes on water. Gee, huh?
Yeah.
I guess we could drive cars on water. And also, plastics made from oil, right. So they're keeping us addicted to this oil that we don't need, when we could be making plastic from hemp oil. We can make clothes, rope, food. We can cure cancer. It prevents brainwashing.
And this is why.
And also, okay, now this is the thing. None of the three of us, I mean, there may be some hillbillies in Tennessee that are going to make a distillery and make some moonshine, but most of us don't have the time to make our own booze. Most of us don't have the time to grow our own tobacco and roll our own cigarettes. And most of us don't have time to make our own pills in a laboratory. And all the things that the government, which again means mind control in Latin, has no problem with us taking. Coffee, a drug that's got everyone so hyper. I can't deal with all you cracked out caffeinated people. They have no problem with a Starbucks on every corner, liquor store on every corner. The fact that 60% of all traffic deaths every year are caused by alcohol. Oh, no problem with that. No problem with that. But the fact Granny can plant a couple seeds in her windowsill and create some medicine that might help her migraines or her menopause or her body aches, or someone might be able to grow some sativa and wake up their third eye and get creative and write a song that might change the world like Bob Marley did. They don't want you having that shit because you don't need them anymore. You can grow it in your garden. You don't need their bullshit no more. You don't need their booze. You don't need their cigarettes. You don't need their coffee.
Yeah.
And you don't need their pills.
Damn right.
You got marijuana. I met Carlos Santana in the lobby of a hotel, and that's what he told me. He said, Jeff, God gave us, he gave us all the medicine we need.
And that's
He gave us the indica that grows right out of the ground for the body aches, insomnia, migraines. He gave us the sativa for creativity, to wake up, to see the truth.
And you know what? Like, you know, people.
The two medicines they've been keeping from us for some mysterious reason. Huh?
And we all have the power, people, and that's why America ain't shit. No country is worth anything, you know, and that's why the Constitution is not worth the hemp that it was printed on. If you look into the Constitution, it was written on hemp paper, and now it's illegal, you know. So when you go to look at these constitutional documents, just remember that they've made the actual plant they use to make the paper illegal now. So what the fuck? Like,
and when you go back and look at these agreements, remember they're written by Freemasons for the most part, and it's a bunch of bullshit.
It's disgusting.
Just like what they told you about George Washington's wooden teeth.
Right.
The reason they told you he had wooden teeth is because they didn't want you to tell you he ripped the teeth out of his slaves' mouths and made his dentures.
It's fucked up.
Museum.
It's terrible.
Slave teeth in Washington's mouth.
Yep.
Use your brain, because wooden teeth would rot in a week with moisture.
Yeah.
Do you just believe anything you read? Wooden teeth?
Right.
Come on, man.
It's a cute story.
Apple falling on a head, gravity, because an apple falls on your head.
Yeah.
It's like, a few other nursery rhymes you may want to look into. The Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy.
Tortoise and Hare. I think you said that one earlier, right?
That's where it starts right there for the young people.
That's good.
We gotta stop setting our clocks to Christmas on December 25th of every year. And
celebrate
buying
Satan's
everything on the
birthday.
shelf from October to December.
Mm-hmm.
It's just we're making it too easy.
Give to people.
The funny thing about the Bible and all the religious zealots, the Catholics and the Christians, they can't even see that they got you worshiping Satan and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's the punking. There's the celebrity roast. They just been punking your asses all along, and they think it's hilarious. It's high comedy because they thrive off. That's the comedy tragedy mask in the theater, because that's what they thrive off. Those tears in that moment when they create that false flag, those tears, and that the moment before death when they human sacrifice you. Those are the two most powerful things that they thrive on, and fear. And that's all the stuff we got to take away from them. And we take that away and they got nothing left.
That's right.
And again, we end this in 1 week when we stop filling the sports arena, stop paying for the pay-per-view, stop buying the Disney bullshit, stop voting, stop paying taxes, stop buying into the Jew Zionist bullshit. Again, brothers and sisters, the Muslims have been the scapegoats. I heard my friend, these fucking Muslims, Obama, these fucking Muslims.
Yeah.